Hey, everybody. Tonight we're debating LGBTQ plus in the church, and we are starting right now with Matthew's opening statement. Thanks for being with us. Matthew, the floor is all yours.
Yeah, well, James, thanks for having me. Andrew, thanks for giving me some of your time. I was looking forward to this. I do want to definitely get into like the reasons that I affirm the LGBTQ community, of which I am one. So I'm your resident queer in the room, I guess here. I want to get into the Bible, scripture, hermeneutics, theology, et cetera, et cetera. I do want to talk about mimetic theory. I want to talk about scapegoating and the church's propensity and all cultures' propensity to scapegoat. But first, I do want to just maybe start out with a like a thought experiment, right? So like imagine that we're living in a galaxy far, far away. It doesn't have to be a long, long time ago, but the world is exactly like ours. I guess it'd be similar to season one, episode 2 and 3 of the Orville, but slightly different. It's identical to ours. There's religions, there's scriptures, there's theology, there's certainty, there's debates, there's all the things. The only difference is the sentient beings that we are in this universe, they get pregnant through penetrative anal sex, males ejaculating into another male's anus, to use Andrew's flowery and poetic language for one of his debates with Brandon Robertson, a colleague of mine. Um, in this universe, many of the traditions, especially the conservative traditional traditions, they say it's natural, and it is. It is procreative. It perpetuates the species. There are heterosexuals. They have heterosexual sex, but it is kind of pointless. It is disordered. There are clobber passages. You have Gay Viticus 2013 in one of these scriptures. Man shall not lie with a woman as with a man, for it is an abomination. Now, if you transported me and Andrew into this universe, to be logically consistent, I suppose I would be arguing for the inclusion of heterosexuals in the church, even though they don't procreate, even though it is against the Bible or whatever whatever the scriptures are called in this universe. And I would assume that to be logically consistent for all the reasons I believe Andrew gives in like his debate with Brandon. He would argue for the homosexual position because it is procreative and life giving and all the other things. And so it just gives me great joy that no matter how this debate goes, like in some universe out there, Andrew Wilson would be arguing for homosexual sex. And I think that's hilarious to me. Um, Andrew loves logic and reason. I think it takes us so far. We can obviously have valid logical arguments and, have a completely untrue conclusion. But logic does get us very far. But Andrew only applies logic, it seems, when it suits him. He has no problem with engaging in logical fallacies. In his debate with Robertson, he said that gay men stick their penis into feces. And there is not a single gay or straight advocacy group that is arguing for unhygienic, non consensual, unsafe sex. Men and women can douche. So this is a straw man. This is a wisdom of repugnancy fallacy. I don't know a single person who does that. Andrew also in his debate with Robertson, uh, for some reason said Don Lemon hates Christianity. Don Lemon, I had to look this up. He is a Christian himself. He wrote the foreword to Brandon's book. Brandon wrote the foreword to a book I wrote. So I don't know a lot about Don Lemon, but this is just it's not true. Don Lemon is a Christian, whether you agree with him theologically or not. This seems to be more of just the Christian victim persecution complex because Lemon does critique his own faith, and it feels like I know it's not an argument, but it feels like there's a lot of Christians out there who, anytime there's a critique of our own faith, we get really bristly and think that like we're under attack or something. And finally, on May 19th, Andrew said, and I refuse to call it X. It was Twitter. I live in a man's body. It'll be impossible for you libs to ever convince me a man attracted to another man's butthole is mentally ill. And I mean, almost objectively funny, but whatever. Like, does this apply to mutatis mutandis for females finding women's buttholes attractive? And Andrew poo-pooed, pardon the pun, poo-pooed psychology as a discipline in his debate with Robertson. So how is he on Twitter diagnosing mental illness? And is there correlation or causation from like your attraction to an anus and mental illness? I have a lot of close-ups of anuses. I can't put it on YouTube because we're gonna get kicked off, but I can DM you, Andrew. I can put it in a grid, and if you can pick out the male and female ones, like that would be kind of cool, I guess. Or does it just apply to an attraction to all anuses? Again, this is just it's logically fallacious, and I think it just goes to show that like Andrew will use logic all day if it suits him and will be fallacious if it suits him, and he's the master debater and I'm simply a masturbator. I I've only done this 3 or 4 times. I'm sure there's going to be points where I misstep, but as far as I understood, the Socratic method is all for collaboration, and it seems like according to Andrew's debate university, it's all about like domination. I think even that word is used in the first paragraph of the copy. um, all of this logic, and I'll wrap up real quick. It's important, but what seems more important is again the inconsistencies when it comes to Christianity. And there's famous scenes where, regardless of whether a YouTuber should have mentioned family or get personal or anything like that, but there's a scene where he basically tells someone to shut their fucking mouth, you fucking bitch. And Ephesians 4:9, are we going to apply this? You shall not have any unwholesome talk. Or are we just going to pick and choose the Bible? My argument is that Christians will cherry pick, and I don't care if you're conservative or you're liberal or you're progressive, we all cherry pick. And it seems like the passages that clearly condemn something like divorce or talking wholesome to people gets nuanced, or we don't even pay attention to it, but the 6 or 7 clobber passages, we're going to really focus on that. And so my concern is that, you know, should the church accept LGBTQ people? I would flip it and say I would never recommend any LGBTQ person go to any church that has anything to do with people like Andrew.
With that, we are going to kick it over to Andrew for his opening. But first, folks, want to let you know DebateCon 8, as you can see at the bottom right of your screen, is coming. DebateCon 8 is Modern Day Debate's flagship event. Modern Day Debate is a fully neutral platform hosting debates on science, religion, and politics. And this conference is going to blow the roof off. Get your tickets right now. It really is going to sell out. Get your tickets in the description box. See Andrew Wilson debate Dinesh D'Souza, as well as Jay Dyer debate Jake Brancatella. With that, we're going to kick it over to Andrew. Thanks for being with us. The floor is all yours.
Yeah, thank you. It didn't seem like it was as nice to meet me as you had led me to believe. Anyway, let me dive into this real quick. I don't take any of this stuff personally. I'm here to represent a worldview, just like my opponent is. And today we get to view a progressive Christian, which is to say, not a Christian at all, just somebody kind of pretending to be one. My opponent's actually a harm reductionist. What he focuses on isn't Christian ethics at all, but harm reductionism, because he's a harm reductionist. He's basically a secular humanist in reality, and his agenda seems mostly focused on the idea of eliminating social stigma, the ideas of equality, equity, and social justice. Interestingly enough, the reason that may sound more like a 21st century progressive ideology instead of Christian ethics to you is because that's what it is. His view really has nothing to do with Christianity at all and just focuses on a modern worldview based inside of a nebulous harm reductionist ideology. So he doesn't really have any arguments here. The prime weakness of his argument against Christians is that he himself is at the mercy of his own argument. If the church has no authority on the matter of homosexuality, then he's declaring himself to be that authority. And if he claims he's not the authority, then he just moves the goalpost to Scripture being an authority. But even then, the vast majority of Christians consider homosexuality to be a sin. So he's once again declaring his interpretation is correct over theirs. And if he isn't, then whose interpretation is correct, if not his? Ultimately, his interpretation is just as good as anybody else's, which means anybody else's is just as good as his. And he has no tiebreaker except to defer to himself as the tiebreaker, in which case anybody else can also declare themselves the tiebreaker, and round we go. This is the classic progressive Christian argument style, and he has no bedrock to tell other Christians they are incorrect about anything ever, for any reason, at any time. Nothing ultimately that he's going to say here tonight except pushing the elimination of social stigma against a group that he favors. That's it, really. His entire objective is just to eliminate social stigma against a preferred group. So my predictions here was that this would basically be a stigma-based argument. We didn't quite get there because he didn't actually give me any arguments. He just said that basically I offended his friend Brandon Straka. He said I have no claim to say anything about Brandon's form of Christianity, but if I remember that debate correctly, in the very intro of it, he agreed with all of the tenets of Satanism. Is that the debate you're referencing? Is that is it? Yeah, that's the correct one.
Robertson. Yeah.
Okay, Robert. Sorry. Yeah. Not Brandon Straka. My bad.
Yeah, no.
I confused two people in my head. So yeah. Anyway, yeah. Didn't he? Yeah. He actually agreed to all the tenets of Satanism. So I don't know why you would say that I have no grounding in which to question his Christian ethical beliefs. Also, he says mimetic theory, whatever that is. But he gave me a thought experiment, so I'll engage with it. This is known as the many worlds argument. He's hardly the first person who's ever come up with it. So what he does is he just envisions a world in which the sexes were changed. Inside of that world where the sexes are changed, reproduction is done between people with penises instead of vaginas, however that physiology would work, et cetera, et cetera. And if that was the case, because it was normatively then reproductive, wouldn't Andrew support it? And the answer to that question is, of course, no. That's actually not a logical position. From my worldview, it would be a logical impossibility because I essentially would fall within the purview of God's nature. So God's nature is unchanging, which means a world like that couldn't exist, which makes it a logical impossibility from my view. Also, in this hypothetical world, he says that gay sex is what leads to the reproduction. Essentially, all he's doing is assigning opposite sex characteristics to people with same sex characteristics, and it's something of a smuggle there. But I don't even think I really need to get into it. It's not even important. He tried to use a poor attempt to rile me up for some reason. I have no idea why. This is also pretty common with progressive Christian debaters. They tend to go in and they're like as foul and disgusting as they possibly can be when they're discussing homosexuality with Christians. And they often do this because they want to get the opposition riled up. I don't know why. It's a low-tier tactic. Lastly, we're talking about logical consistency. I appreciate him saying that I'm logically consistent. I'm not sure that he is yet, but we're going to find out. He criticized the word domination from Debate University, which is really interesting because that is specifically talking about online debates. And we do go over the Socratic method. He is right. The Socratic method is cooperative, right? If people are actually following it and answering the questions you ask them, which most people don't. The other thing is he brings up unwholesome words, which coming out of your mouth, he's referencing Ephesians there. We can get into that if he wants to. He has to remember that there are actually things that are going on in this place and time. He didn't mention how women aren't supposed to speak in church, though, which is interesting because that was a letter to Timothy from Paul, just like he's referencing Paul's letter to the Ephesians. It's pretty funny. At the end of it, he actually made a concession in the debate because he said that he doesn't think homosexuals should go to the same church as any Christians like me. I completely agree with this. So I actually don't know what we're ultimately arguing about because I agree. If it is in fact the case that my opponent says that all homosexuals should not go to churches that have Christians like me in it, then I concede. I actually will concede the debate. If that's your position, I'll concede the debate right now. And I mean, I guess that'll be it. And with that, that'll be my opening statement.
Thank you very much. And also, folks, as I had mentioned, DebateCon 8, July 25th in Dallas. You don't want to miss it. Check out the tickets link in the description box. Also, check out the GoFundMe. This is specifically for security for the event. Everybody agrees, no matter what your position is on the topics at the debates at the conference, everybody believes in safety. So if you would like to help support the event's safety by throwing in for this crowdfund for the security for DebateCon 8, check out that link in the description box and pinned at the top of the chat as well. With that, we're going to kick it into open dialogue. The floor is all yours, gentlemen.
Yeah, go ahead, man. I'll let you engage in the Socratic method first, and I'll be cooperative with you.
No, I mean, like, look, I'm not coming in here trying to rile you up. I'm just trying to have I'm just trying to have a good discussion. But I feel well, I don't want to say I feel like it. When I watch your debates, I mean, look, like I said what I said because those you didn't address any of those things. Those are things that you did. Like you said that gay men stick their penises into feces, and that is a fallacy. Like that. I mean, I'm sure logically it's possible
Well, do you know
that happens.
Do you know the distinction between rhetoric and fallacious argumentation? So you can use rhetorical flourishes, rhetorical devices without making
Sure.
arguments. Rhetoric defined as just anything which convinces. So it's not an actual argument if I'm saying gay men stick their penises in feces. Though I actually would make the said argument that I'm not actually sure how a gay man would engage in anal sex without doing that. But that aside, I'm not
I mean,
sure
are you
what that's
also?
I'm not sure what that's actually pertinent to, though.
Well, I think it's just the point that you will engage in these tactics to overwhelm your opponent, and it doesn't like that's just it just to me it's like that's a if that is an argument, if you're saying that's not an argument, then I guess we could just sit here and
Yeah.
clown on
Well,
each other and just and be
I'm as good
rhetorical and
faith. Well, I'm as good faith as my opponents are. If my opponents become bad faith or they become belligerent or they refuse to answer questions or they decide that they want to do rhetorical dunks, then I'm happy to play that game. If they want to do a legitimate straight up debate, then I'm happy to do that too. I treat people how I expect they should treat me. If they don't treat me that way, then I give it back to them.
oh, okay. Well, I
So
promise not to be like personal about anything.
well,
I
it's
also don't take this
totally
shit personally,
yeah,
but
so it's totally up to you. If you want to have a straight debate, that's what we can do. If that's really not
well,
what you're interested in, then we can do something else.
I mean, I guess the boundaries are going to shift a little bit because it feels like, I mean, straight debate that's gonna be open to an opinion, but whatever. I mean, like, I mean, I'm in good faith here. I believe that you're in good faith here. Are you also against like? Are you also against heterosexual anal sex too? Is it also like men stick their penises in women's feces? Is that like? Is that
Yeah,
also? Is that also there to rile us up too?
that would be called sodomy from my view. So
Okay.
sodomy would be you know, yes, anal sex would fall under sodomy.
Okay. And it's sodomy. Why? Like just by like, is it because of the Bible? Is that are you going to like the colloquial definition of
No,
sodomy or like
you got to understand just real quick. Maybe we can clarify a few things about each other's view real quick so we don't talk past each other. So
mhm,
I'll clarify some things about mine first.
okay,
I'm not a Protestant Christian and I'm not a Catholic. I'm an Eastern
right,
Orthodox Christian.
sure.
You'll find that our views on homosexuality are going to be very similar to that of the Catholic Church. But when we're talking about deriving authority, we don't just derive authority from the Bible, but through apostolic succession and through the teachings of the church itself. So we're talking all the way back to the original church, going back to the apostles. That's where we would trace all the apostolic fathers that we have all the way back, very similarly to how the Catholic Church does it. So if that is the case, we also rely on tradition as well. So the teachings are not universally given to us specifically only through the Bible. There's other authorities we adhere to as well.
Yeah. And what do you say about your church? Because I agree with you that I'm actually not a Christian. I post Christian. I spent 25 years as a Protestant. So um I might concede here and say I'm not a Christian. So like as long as we understand that
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, just to clarify a couple of views, right? So I ask everybody who is a progressive Christian or who makes a claim towards progressive Christianity these questions. The first question is Jesus God?
is Jesus God?
Hmm.
I would say that I, there's a oneness with God and there's a mysticism there and there's something incarnational. And I'd say Jesus is the closest image we get to what God is like as a human.
But you don't believe in the Trinity.
I would say that that is a pretty decent analogy. I mean,
That's not
or
that's not an
well,
analogy for Trinity.
well,
Is
sure. I
G
mean, I know that some people, yeah, yeah.
Is Jesus co-equal with God? Is Jesus God?
I would be fine with in the right context talking as long as like there's some assumptions there that we can agree on. Like that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. You feel me?
Well, I'm
Like,
asking you what it means to you. Not I'm not debating with anybody who's not you.
yeah,
So it's just
sure,
your
right,
opinion that I'm interested in here.
right, yeah. But even if I say something, it's going to run through your grid and filter, and you're going to interpret it a certain way. So even embedded in that question is like
Well, that's it, but that's
God,
every human being you talk to. We all have filters.
exactly.
We're all
Yeah. See,
individuals. We're all going to be interpreting things in various ways. I understand
yes.
that, but that doesn't mean
Mhm.
that we can't have shared worldviews and shared ideals, shared ideologies, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So in this particular case, what I'm asking you specifically is for your view. And if that is representative of other people's views too, so be it. But specifically, I'm just asking about your worldview here. Do you believe in the Trinity and that would you proclaim Jesus Christ is God?
Probably not in the same, not in the way that most Christians would.
I gotcha. Okay. So
Yeah.
as
But
far
can I go
as
back to something real quick?
hang on,
Because
I just want to
oh,
clarify a
okay.
couple more views, and
Okay.
then
Of
you can
course.
actually ask me about mine too. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that you understand what the actual worldview is.
Sure.
The next thing that I'm going to ask you is basically on stigma. I wanted to ask you just a quick question on stigma. Is ultimately your goal here for why it is that you want Christians to be more inclusive of openly LGBTQ people in the church is because you want to eliminate what you consider harmful stigma to them to be?
That could be a part of it. It's certainly not, it's not like, I wouldn't reduce everything that I believe about it into that.
Well, it's not a total reduction of the view. I wouldn't say that. I'm just asking for prime points. Is that a prime point of the view?
I think harm reduction, I mean, yeah, stigma reduction, but that gets into the mimetic theory and that gets into scapegoating. And the fact that you don't know mimetic theory, that's cool. It's actually it's a secular, it was discovered by an atheist who got converted by the Gospels because of this mimetic theory. So, which is interesting. He became a Roman Catholic, but so it's an anthropological theory that we use to interpret and exegete literature. And then when we come to the Gospels, we have a certain view of what the Gospels does when compared to mythology. And so, yes, a part when I talk about like stigma and scapegoating, I'm doing it in the context of mimetic theory.
I understand. Okay, so then would it be fair for me to say then, as most dominant Protestant churches, and it is the case that Catholics and Eastern Orthodox, this would encompass the vast overwhelming majority of Christians are Trinitarians and would proclaim Jesus Christ as God, that you would be doing what's considered an outsider critique. In other words, you're not doing an insider critique because you're not in agreement or conformity with the main bodies of the churches which are in existence right now. Is that fair to say that that critique is valid?
I guess it depends on what you mean by like insider and outsider. I was like 30 years as a Protestant. I was in leadership. I don't currently
Well,
hold those
I'll explain what
beliefs,
I
but
mean. What I mean specifically is that let's take any like subset of beliefs. Like let's say you're a communist and I don't know, I'm a fascist, right, or something like this. There's going to be shared tenets which we're going to agree are necessary for you to be part of that group. And if that tenet isn't there, you're necessarily not going to be part of that group. So, for instance, communism has a direct opposition towards capitalist theory. So, saying that you were a communist capitalist would be a direct contradiction, right? Just like if you were to say like you're a democratic fascist, that would probably be a direct
sure,
contradiction. So
sure.
so absent those tenets, you're not going to be giving this critique from the inside. So if I was arguing with a Republican, for instance, as a Republican, we would have X amount of shared tenets, like we both voted for right wingers, we both voted for Trump, we both voted for these things, we both believe in X, Y, and Z, and that would fulfill like some kind of satisfactory criteria for what made us that thing. In this particular case, I'm not denying that you would consider yourself a Christian, only that you would have an outside critique from what the major denominations of Christianity basically universally believe, which is the idea of Trinity.
Bro, you said I'm not a Christian in like the first sentence that you had your opening to. So I don't. You are saying I'm not a Christian.
Yeah, but as part of this critique, that's not part of the critique for me to say that you're a Christian or not, but rather from your view, if you would say that it's fair that you're from the outside of a Trinitarian perspective, and that is most of the perspective of most Christians.
I would be a bit more agnostic on it. Like I feel like it's like you want this binary. I'm either Trinitarian or not, rather than I'm. It's like this infinite mystery that you're asking me to like. Are you Unitarian? Are you Trinitarian? And I'm like, well, I wrestle with that, and I think maybe Christians should wrestle with that a little more. And it's like you want this binary answer: are you or aren't you? And it's like, well, I'm all about the mystery. I know a lot of Christians love the certainty and all that, but like I don't know. I don't know how being like maybe I'm Trinitarian. Like I think maybe yeah, maybe of course like the Holy Spirit, God the Father, and Jesus the Son. And it's not a hill I'm going to die on, even if I say yeah, that might be the best worldview, or perhaps I am sometimes Unitarian. I don't know, like, but I still feel like it's still an internal critique insofar as like I was a part of this world for a long, long time. Like a lot of most of my friends are Trinitarian Christians. So if you need me to say no, I'll say no. If you want to carry on to the next question and see where you're going with this.
Well, I'm not actually trying to go anywhere with it. I'm just trying to. So when I'm debating someone who's coming in good faith, and I'm coming in good faith, I think it's super important that I understand your specific view, because I don't want to straw man it. I don't want to attack things that you're not saying. I don't want to move into a viewpoint and attack things that have nothing to do with your actual position. So all I usually do right at the very beginning of a debate is I just want to make sure that I clarify what your actual positions are so that I don't make any mistakes when we're arguing back and forth, and I'm actually critiquing your actual position. That seems totally fair to me, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, for sure, for sure.
The other, I wanted to ask you, I only have two more questions. The second one is, do you think that Christians should vote for policies which represent their religious beliefs?
Yeah, I get yeah, I'm pretty ambiguous on like how Christians should vote. Everyone's got different reasons to vote for different things. I think to some degree we should vote with our conscience and our ethics and morality. If but it's pretty dubious for me to say like a Christian should vote X, Y, and Z.
Okay, so you're not necessarily opposed to people voting based along their ethical lines, because how else will they vote, right?
Sure, right.
Okay. But wouldn't that entail that Christians should probably vote for policies that align with their ethical views?
Yeah, I mean, if there's like 40,000 Christian denominations, yeah, sure. But
yeah, I don't disagree. There's probably over 40,000 Protestant denominations. And if you add in small occults that will utilize bits and pieces of Christianity, it gets even bigger. But there's still shared views and shared viewpoints, right?
Can I push back on that a little bit? Because I've got Eastern Orthodox friends who are in good standing in the church.
Sure. Hang on. I only got one more question.
Oh, yeah,
push back as much as you want.
For sure.
And then my last question was just, who did you vote for?
Who did I vote for? I voted for Kamala Harris.
Okay. All right. That's it. That's all I had, man.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that I understood the view well. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I mean, look, like, so you're in the Eastern Orthodox Church and you're talking about 40,000 denominations in Protestantism. I don't disagree with you.
Or more.
Yeah, for sure. I don't got an official count. But like, I know Eastern Orthodox colleagues. I've published we're in contracts with one of them. We published some stuff. Like, they're as progressive as I am. Some are teaching universal reconciliation. You know, if you debated David Bentley Hart, you both would be Eastern Orthodox and he would be on my affirmed position. So a lot of my argument is like, the Bible's pretty clear that you need to sweep off your messy ass porch Christianity before you start talking about other people's porches. And so that's what I'm here to like. I am like befuddled by the amount of energy that Christians, you can't even agree with your own tradition. You would come on the opposite side.
Well, now I'm a little bit confused. So
okay,
if your ultimate idea is just that Christians can make no societal or social critiques unless they're perfect, that seems like an untenable position. Then what are you actually saying? Because when you say Christianity needs to clean up its act before it's allowed to act socially in society, what are you saying other than until you're perfect, you can't say anything? I don't like what's the threshold here I should be looking for when it's okay for Christians to finally make social policy?
Yeah, so it's not about being perfect. I never said that. I said it's messy, right? So it's like there has to be some agreed upon. Like I think Christians should be involved in societal decisions, but when it's so blatant, where it's like Christians can't even agree on how many books are in the Bible, and then we want to talk about like it's the Word of God, right? Like, so it's like if I own a publishing company, right? If my business partner and I had a book that we published, and I said there's 28 chapters, let's just be biblical. There's 66 chapters, and he's like, no, there's 79, and you're like, no, actually, there's 73. If I'm on the outside looking in, how about you guys figure this shit out before you tell us that it's the Word of God? You can't even agree on your own fucking books.
But that criticism is really stupid, and I'll tell you why, right? Like, don't you do this with the Constitution, with rules and laws, with regulations, with it? Like, you can't figure shit out. It's not like secular societies to just have shit figured out and just agree on everything. Not like, oh, The
Sure.
secularists all know what the law is supposed to be. We all know that there's no ambiguity. We've cleaned up all our messes. Our shit is just fucking perfect. And until you fucking Christians are like us, who got it all figured out
No.
and can agree on everything, you're not allowed to engage in. So, like, that's a stupid critique, right?
No, because you say it's the word of God. Like, we're talking about the Constitution is
Instead
a
of the
fallible
word of
document.
Brandon, instead of the words of Brandon or
I don't give
Chuck,
a fuck about the. I don't give a fuck about the Constitution
Fred,
in that way.
It's like, oh, it's the words of Fred, therefore it's superior than the words of not Fred. I don't. It's like I don't even get the critique, bro.
Not at all. I don't get like honestly, like I mean, obviously the current administration doesn't give a fuck about the Constitution, but as far as like like I care about the Constitution insofar as it goes. But Christians are like, this is the word of God, dictated by God Himself.
Yeah, and you guys are like, this is the word of Chuck, dictated by Chuck himself. It's like, so what?
But-
what's the big critique? Like, I'm supposed to go, oh, you know what? You're right. I don't believe that that's the word of God, and I'm going to put all my faith in Jim. You know, it's like, what are you even asking us to do? I'm going to put my faith, all of my faith in a guy named fucking Ted. Like, what is the critique here? It's the same critique both ways, right? It's like, oh, I don't have faith in the thing that you believe is an authority. It's like, but why would I appeal to the thing that you consider to be a 100% fallible authority?
I'm not claiming there is any infallible authority dictated by God. I think if you're going to say that, the burden of proof is on you.
I mean the fallible authority that we would agree on is the words of men, right?
Sure.
Okay, so if that's the case, then it's like you can't in good faith tell people, unless all of your spiritual shit is all cleaned up and you guys are all in agreement. Us secularists who don't agree about fucking anything. We can't agree about harm reduction. We can't agree about the age of consent laws. We can't agree about what taxation should be. We can't agree about certain social orders. We can't agree about when children should or shouldn't go to school. We can't even agree on the topics that should be taught in school. They can't agree on shit. And it's like, what are you talking about? Of course we can make critiques about that, right? How could you say we're going to make critiques about your religion and your beliefs when you're at the mercy of the same exact standard?
Then, but you are too, because you're appealed.
But that's fine. I'm fine. Okay. I'm fine with the fact that I understand that this is a race for power. And if it's a race for power, and the idea is that secularists are going to get it, or people who agree with me are going to get it, then I want the people who agree with me to get it, just like you want the people who agree with you to get it.
Nope, it's wrong. It's not about power. Jesus is about powerlessness. Theology should start at the foot of the cross. Jesus gives away. Isn't that what kenosis is? He's given away power. He's given his way to be standing with God, to be like us. Christianity is supposed to be about powerlessness. Human authorities, kingdom of men, are about power, about acquiring power. When they approach him, oh, you want to make him king? He goes to the wilderness, John 6. When they say, hey, the devil says, hold on, okay, you're interrupting me. I'm almost done. The devil, what does the devil approach him with in Luke? Kingdom power, power of religious power, state power.
Yes, we're gonna give him the whole world, right?
Yeah, the whole fucking thing. And so it's about powerlessness. You say it's about power. It's not about power for me. I don't give a fuck what progressives and whatever. For me, the way I understand Christianity, I love Jesus. I don't need to be called a Christian to say this is about powerlessness. It's about servitude. It's about washing feet. Great. And you're saying it's about power.
Well, let's find out. Well, let's find out if that's a consistent position.
It's not because I'm a bad Christian.
Well,
if I'm Christian at all.
Well, hang on. This one's easy, right? It's like, so do you agree with me that it was a coalition of Protestant reformers and Enlightenment thinkers who abolished slavery?
Oh, is that historically true?
It is historically true, yeah.
Okay.
Starting in England. Okay. Well, they shed the power and took the power for themselves as abolitionists. They wanted the abolitionists to be in charge, as they thought that abolitionists were the ones who were going to be able to move the goalpost towards abolition. And Abraham Lincoln did the exact same thing, right? He moved the goalpost for abolition. He could only do that if he was in power. Are you saying that the world would be a better place if it was the case that Christians didn't take power in order to move into Christian ethical positions like the abolition of slavery? That seems absurd to me, right? Like, what would Jesus do in that situation? Honestly, do you think that he would say, you guys keep being slavers because we can't be taking this power stuff? Does that even sound rational to you?
What did Jesus do in his actual life?
Well, he did a lot of things. Which things specifically are you talking about? What Jesus did was he challenged power and authority and gave all of it to himself. All of it. He said that there's absolutely no way There's no way through without him, in fact. And so when you're talking about the orders of the day of Jesus Christ, the orders of the day were terrified of him. But ultimately, power and authority rested in his apostles. They went and made nations of the entire world, and they needed to have authority to do that. Paul, in fact, he went to Corinth because the super apostles were trying to unseat him, right? That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to take authority away.
Sure.
He wrote extensive letters to Timothy in Ephesus because the people there wanted to take the authority away from Christians inside their church because of the silver trade, right? So, like, these are over and over again. You see various instances of apostles taking authority necessary to push Christian ethics.
Yeah, you gotta be real careful about getting on political power. I mean, you can make the case that you can make obviously you can make systemic progressive change by using political power and authority, but we have to be really, really careful, because when we blend our religion and state power, it's like no one. It's like read the Lord of the Rings,
unless
right?
we're
like
abolishing slavery, right? Then it's okay.
Well, yeah. Well, why not? Like, yeah.
Well, right. Well, then it sounds like when Christians take power, as long as it's for shit that progressives want, it's fine. And if it's not for stuff progressives want, it's not fine. That's what it sounds like to me, right?
Fuck yeah, hell yeah,
exactly.
And you're doing this, and you're just saying take power for the things that conservatives want.
Now we're having a good conversation. We're finally getting somewhere. Exactly. So if ultimately what you're saying and your position reduces to, Andrew, I want Christians to do shit that I think meets a progressive agenda. It's like, you know what? That's at least honest. I can at least understand and wrap my head around that, because I agree that that is what's going on, that progressive Christians are trying to move a progressive agenda into the church, and they essentially want to spay and neuter Christians unless they're pushing for a progressive agenda.
I feel like that is a straw man of what I actually believe. I would say an agenda that looks like Jesus, his hermeneutics, his ethics, how he actually walked on the earth, what his priorities were, and I don't hear a lot of Jesus talk. To be frank, in a lot of debates I watch, a lot of this stuff, like, Christians don't want to talk about the actual shit Jesus did that often, because it's even radical for me. Like, I remember reading David Bentley Hart talk, like, we wouldn't be much. Early Christians would not look at capitalism at all favorably. Like, the church is radically.
Why wouldn't they?
Why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Because it's not how they thought.
Hey, that entire yeah, it is. The entire region ran on mercantilism between city states. Mercantilism, which is, by the way, mercantilism is the beginning stages of capitalism. That's
they were all about sharing their stuff.
Well,
without the state pressure.
Not really. So if we look, for instance, you might be referencing Acts there.
Sure.
But when you're talking about why it was the case that the apostles initially came together to begin the sharing of resources, that was because the state at the time, which was the Pharisaical order, I believe, they were supposed to be feeding the poor, and they didn't. And it's because the state wasn't doing their job that Christians came in, and they filled the void, which, by the way, Christians have always done. And we do it right here in the United States. When there's a void in healthcare, it's usually Christian charities. Like, for instance, Ron Paul and Rand Paul both worked for various Christian charities. And what they did was they would donate X amount of their time as doctors for no charge at all, in order to assist with people who weren't Christians at all in their healthcare system and things like this. But that has the entirety of that is based around the idea of will and voluntarism, right? What you're talking about when you're saying capitalism is also mercantilism. You're talking about voluntary exchanges. The idea of communism and socialism removes the voluntary aspects of those things.
Well, in traditional definition, sure, but it does seem like there were a lot of Christians, and let me be clear, there are multiple Christianities in the early church. Yeah, I would say it's a voluntarist type of communism. It's not attached to the state at all. I come from a libertarian background. I met Ron Paul one time. That was cool. I get all that. But But yeah, I don't know what the point was at that.
Well,
but getting
well,
on
I
the
mean, kind
capitalism
of,
stuff.
but kind of like diving into this, maybe moving it back towards the topic that we're here to talk about.
Sure.
If
Yeah.
it's the case that you think that Christians should vote along ethical lines in their shared ethical values, and there's no real other way that you can place them voting any more than I could force you to vote against your ethical lines. If it's the case that Christians come together to vote against LGBTQ marriage, which they're definitely going to do if they were allowed to, right? Every place that they were allowed to actually vote against it, they did vote against it until the Supreme Court stepped in. So let's assume for a second that that amendment is repealed and Christians voted to outlaw LGBTQ in their prospective states, LGBTQ marriages. What is your actual objection to that other than, man, I just don't like it, bro? What is the actual objection? Like, you can't really critique the Christians for doing that because that's part of their ethical view.
Yeah, it's part of their ethical view, and it's engaging in the type of scapegoating that societies, cultures, not just Christianity, but Christianity has been a part of it. And if we follow Girard and Catholic theologian James Allison, Christians are to be called out. They are the called out ones who repent of their scapegoating.
Well, what is the scapegoat here exactly? When
the LGBTQ community.
hang on.
Oh,
I understand the claim that they're scapegoating, but what is the scapegoating? In other words, what sins are the LGBTQ people being blamed for? That's what a scapegoat is, right? You put all the sins on the scapegoat, and then it's slaughtered, and then that appeases you of your sins. How is that relatable to LGBTQ marriage, for instance?
You have never heard Christians say that this hurricane came because they allowed gay marriage in this state, or I've heard them say Katrina came because of gay marriage. That's what else is that?
You mean divine punishment?
Yeah, I guess, right? I heard John Piper once say that there was an LGBTQ, I think, clinic in the Twin Cities area. It got struck by lightning. He preached on it that day and said that was like that they are to blame. God is punishing us. God is punishing them for the sins. If there were congregants in the congregation who had their house burned down too, and I'm like, okay, this is All Saints Day when all the Christians come together in Portugal, and they got hit by the double tap. They got the earthquake and they got the tsunami that came and hit them. And then we got to say, well, it can't work like that, right? But continually, LGBTQ people are blamed for this kind of shit.
That sounds like they're blaming. Sounds like Christians are blaming themselves. They're saying that they're being permissive of sin, and that they need to not be permissive of sin. How is that scapegoating? Unless you're saying that Christians are making themselves the scapegoat. If there's divine punishment, for instance, let's take a look at what happened to Egypt, the divine punishment that was there. It happened to the Egyptians for straying away from the word of God, being permissive towards sin of worshiping false idols and demons, right? If that's the case, it's the Egyptians who get the punishment ultimately. It's the same thing that Christians are saying. If they are saying that there's divine punishment which is coming to us, that divine punishment is coming to us because we are too permissive of sin. They're not actually saying that the divine punishment is coming to you. So that would be the opposite of scapegoating. They're not slaughtering you for their sins. They're saying that they're not going to be permissive of sins anymore.
They're exactly saying God will slaughter us.
No, they're exactly not saying that. Who?
LGBTQ people are not going to be perpetually slaughtered in hell forever. We're not blamed blamed.
Okay, but from the Christian view, all people who don't have salvation, well, that's not specific scapegoating. That's ridiculous. That would be scapegoating the whole world then. You're just scapegoating everybody.
Jesus is the savior of the whole world.
Yes, for people who have faith in him. Whoever so have faith in me. Right? That's how you get salvation, is through Jesus Christ, right? The idea there is that if you do not have salvation through Jesus Christ, that is the gateway from the Protestant view of hell. The Orthodox and Catholics have a different varied view. For the Eastern Orthodox, for instance, we just consider hell to be a separation of God. But I would contend that people who deny the energies of God here on earth are probably already in hell, hell of their own making. But yeah,
is it not?
But the point. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. No. Just to clarify, is it not true that the Orthodox, at least some of y'all, believe that you're actually not separated from God? You're in God's presence, and it's seen as something uncomfortable and horrible. You're still in God's presence.
Well, that's the essence. Right now we're talking about. There's an essence energy distinction in Orthodoxy. right? So you can participate in one, but not the other. But the idea is you always want to be participating in the energies of God. That's how you know the difference between sin and not sin. Be my participating in the energies of God. No sin. Yes, not sin. Simple, right? So that would be the viewpoint reduced down to its foundation. But still, the scapegoat there, that doesn't seem like much of a scapegoat. It just seems like they're saying we're permissive of sin. And by the way, that actually makes a lot of sense. So for instance, let's say you lived in a city that had a crime wave. Okay. Would you be like, oh, those guys over there want to round up the criminals? They're fucking scapegoating. Does that even make sense? Or is that follow from their view?
Well, that's a weak analogy unless you're saying we're a bunch of criminals.
No. I'm not saying you're a bunch of criminals. What I'm saying is that doesn't it stand to reason that if you told people, hey, we have to stop putting up with this thing that we don't want to tolerate anymore because we consider it egregious in society. You might consider it egregious for a different reason Christians do, but you wouldn't say that was scapegoating. Like theft itself, you probably find egregious for some reason, but would it be scapegoating if you went and arrested thieves? Or if you wanted to get rid of the theft element from your community, would that be scapegoating?
Not necessarily, but that's
exactly.
But okay, but that's not taking ownership over the fact that LGBTQ people have been blamed. And if we just get rid of them, God will. It's this Deuteronomic hermeneutic.
If we just get rid of the criminals, we won't have crime.
There is scapegoating of criminals. We have a.
There's scapegoating of criminals.
System. Of course.
Doesn't it logically follow that?
Of course, there is some scapegoating of criminals.
Does this logically follow? If we got rid of all criminals, there would not be any crime. That logically follows, right?
Yes, it's valid.
So then how would that be scapegoating?
Because something can be valid and untrue. Like,
if we got rid of all criminals, that would be an unsound, but that would be an unsound argument. You'd be saying, yes, it's true that the premises, they follow from one another, but the conclusion's untrue. What I'm asking here is like, let's just say you had a two premise syllogism, right? And it was just like I said, it goes like this. Criminals are responsible for crime. That's premise one. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. Premise two. If all criminals go away, right, there would be no crime.
Correct.
Okay. So then conclusion is we should get rid of all criminals because then there won't be any crime. How's that conclusion unsound?
Well, because people because we have a president, for instance, that is 34 times over a felon. So what we call crime does change. What we call crime for some people.
Yeah, that has no bearing on whether or not that argument.
Right,
but it's true that the conclusion follows from the premise. You don't have any argument against it because it's true. It's a true conclusion. All the premises are true. Everything follows. It's both sound and valid. All you can do at this point is nothing because you just agreed that it's a true argument. So that couldn't be scapegoating because you're just logically agreeing if this is the problematic element that's agreed to and you get rid of it, that it indeed will be the case that that problematic element is now gone.
Okay. What we call crime, however, does not preclude us from using those definitions to scapegoat people. You can be a criminal and be scapegoated. I think Donald Trump is a criminal. I'm not disagreeing.
Hang on. I'm not disagreeing that you could potentially scapegoat anybody. Yeah, but I don't think we have a disagreement there. That's the only reason we're cutting in.
I don't think we do. I'm not sure how you're equating criminals to LGBTQ people.
Well, no, I'm not. I'm just looking at the logical consistency between the two views. Okay. The view from the secularist is, look, whatever we view as being problematic human behavior that we don't like, right? We're going to combat and get rid of that behavior as well, right? But somehow that's not scapegoating, but it would be scapegoating if it's the case that this other group that is also in a mass majority, they have a similar opinion. This is a problematic behavior that we don't like, and so we want to reduce that behavior. Somehow that's scapegoating, but the other isn't, and that is bizarre to me.
Well, according to the Bible, according to Romans 1, aren't we all lawbreakers? We should just get rid of all of ourselves, right?
Yeah, but you see how that doesn't really contend with what it is that I'm saying? You're at the mercy of the same critique that you're giving. The critique that you're giving is,
aren't we all?
No, we're not all. So you can have critiques that you can give that your particular view is not at the mercy of. It just happens to be the case that your view is at the mercy of the very same things that you're criticizing. In this case, if I'm steelmanning your position correctly, it's I'm a progressive. This is behavior that I don't like. So obviously I want to see less of it. But the Christians doing the exact same thing. We're Christians. This is behavior we don't like. So we want to see less of it. So they're going to tailor policy and social policy in society towards the reduction of the behavior that they consider, something they don't like in their communities and elements. It's the same exact thing that you're doing. So what is the criticism of them then?
The criticism? Oh, I believe they're interpreting the Bible incorrectly. I believe they're interpreting Jesus incorrectly. I'm totally happy with talking about hermeneutics. I'm totally happy with talking about our relationship to the Bible.
Yeah, but even with the biblical argument, you're stuck before we ever even get to a single passage, because all you're saying there is myself, Mr. How do I pronounce your is it Distefano or Distefano?
Distefano.
I am Mr. Distefano and the ultimate arbiter of what the Bible says. Are you?
Nope.
Okay, great. No, well then why should I listen to you?
I think Jesus laid out a pattern of hermeneutics that Christians don't tend to ask.
Yeah, but why should I listen to a person who says that they don't have the authority to tell me what the Bible even says?
You don't have the authority either. Who has the authority?
Well, if that is the case, then when we're critiquing each other, if neither of us has the authority to tell the other what the proper viewpoint of the Bible is, then why is it again that this isn't just a rush for power and who gets there first wins? Because all we're doing is giving each other the same critique again, aren't we? You're not the ultimate authority. Well, neither are you. Well, I don't care then. I guess we're just going to have to see who gets power, right? To enforce our view. How else do you break that tie exactly, sir?
How do you break it with your how do you
by
break it
gaining authority regardless of your view, because your view consequentially is determining that I must.
How do you gain authority?
I do it through legislative action.
Okay. And so the people with the most legislative action wins.
Isn't that the case?
Okay. So what are we doing? What are we debating about?
Well, right. I guess the only other option or the only other move that's really open to you is to give me some kind of critique about how it's actually wrong or immoral for Christians to bar LGBTQ marriage. Because it seems like from your view, you can't use the Bible because neither of us are an authority. So if I say I'm authoritative on it, you're going to dismiss that. If you say you're authoritative on it, I'm going to dismiss it. Neither one of us are going to say we're the authority on it. So then what we're left with is our particular interpretations. And if that's the case, then it's just like all of the law, and it's just up to interpretation, legislation, who gets in power first. Then I want my people who agree with my worldview in power to make those laws instead of your people who are going to make laws that I don't like. It's pretty simple, right?
I don't think we disagree. Where are you claiming this authority then? Just the most people? Again, I don't understand. Like, why is it my responsibility to be an authority when you can't be an authority either? Like, I don't understand how you're justifying who is going to be a part of the church.
Because from your view, we're on equal ground when it comes to authority and autonomy. We don't have it, right? Neither one of us has it with the other one. Well, if that's the case, how do we settle disputes, sir?
Well, some Christians colonize.
Yeah, tell me, how do we settle a dispute if it's the case that neither one of us is going to see the other's worldview on how we determine hermeneutics, Christology, how we determine any of these things, right? If we can't agree on individualistic interpretations, can you just explain to me, how do we settle a dispute then?
We serve the fuck out of people and we love them toward Jesus. We don't call them fucking. We don't call them. We don't call them
settling disputes.
Excuse me. We don't call them sniz licking fucking bitches. That's what we don't. We don't do that.
I mean, that's it.
I can be apophatic and say what we don't do because there's apophatic. That's part of it.
The whole critique is like, I have no authority to tell you not to do this thing I'm telling you not to do. That's it. That's the whole argument.
I think Christians would have a more claim to a moral high ground or a moral authority if they actually applied this. Can I finish, man?
Yeah, but with who?
With whoever Christians are trying to convert to their view.
Non-Christians?
I don't know who are you proselytizing? Who
So
are you
like
trying to be?
non-Christians would like us more if we were less Christian-y?
When you are a representation of Jesus, when you take on the term Christian and you don't care about Ephesians 4:9 the way you talk to people, how are you a representation of this view? We can talk logic, we can do all this shit, but you actively participate in cherry picking which part of the Bible you're going to apply to your life. And even your own, I don't want to get too personal, but even your own fans like on Reddit, like they clown on you because you don't live up to your traditional manhood. And I honestly, that's not my view. That's your fans like clowning on you. I had to look up what these
My
terms are.
fans.
Yes, people are like, I love Andrew Wilson. I follow him, but he's there's like all these terms, beta something, 304, simp. I
Got
had to
me.
look this shit up. No, they got you. It's
They
not
got
my
me.
argument.
So what is the argument?
The argument is if you're
That I'm
going to
not
have
virtuous, that I'm not virtuous enough?
that you don't know, that you don't seem to care about it. Isn't it? Answer me this.
That's just you're saying that I'm not virtuous enough.
Is a central tenet of Christianity repentance?
Yes.
Does it mean to change one's mind, metanoia? Does it mean to change one's thinking?
No, there's more to it than that. I would
Sure, there's
also
more to
say
it.
I would also say that it's to change behavior, and it's also to well, let's see, how would I frame this right? This last part, it would be not just a change in behavior, but a change in the mindset. The entire noose would have to change correctly.
Yeah. Have you had any mindset change in the way you talk to this Charlie YouTuber?
What does that mean? What are you asking me there?
When you called her a ditch licker and shut her fucking bitch mouth.
What does that have to what does that have to do with anything? Like, let's say, for instance,
well, of course you don't want it to have to do anything because it's a critique of, do you even apply the same consistency that you apply to others to yourself?
But let's just say I didn't. So what? What's the argument there?
The argument is, why should I take your faith seriously when you don't apply it to your own life?
So you would take my faith seriously if I was perfect and then said I still don't want gay LGBTQ people in my church?
I would take you a little more seriously if you actually seem to give a shit about it. Not that you're perfect. You're straw manning me. I never say perfect.
I'm asking you a specific question. Okay, forget perfect. If I was more righteous, or what you considered more virtuous, or I didn't have less failings as a man, but I still didn't want LGBTQ marriage, would you just go for it then, or?
Not at all, but I would have
exactly. So then, so why is it? Hang on. Why is it the case then that even if I act in the most virtuous way you as a progressive could possibly think of, you're still not going to adhere to the view? Okay, can you tell me exactly what this criticism is, except a way to tell people, hey, we shouldn't trust those Christians because they don't live up to their own standard and their own worldview? But the criticism there is simple. Great, I have a worldview that I can fail at. I totally agree with you. All we should do then is just be moral nihilist. If we don't have any worldview, how could we fail? I could never fail to live up to my moral standards if I just didn't fucking have any, right?
I guess if you want to take that view, but
then perfect. What we should all do is be moral nihilist, and then you could never say to me, Andrew, you're failing to live up to your own moral standard because, Andrew, you don't have a fucking moral standard, right? And it's like, do you understand how silly that criticism sounds to me? It's like, inside the provision of my worldview, I'm going to fail. It's literally built into my worldview. It's built in.
Yeah. So I guess if you're failing at even acknowledging it and doing anything about it, I guess my only critique.
Well, wait, where did that come from? Where did that idea come from?
Because if you're going to publicly do that shit, where is your public acknowledgement that you fucked up as someone who represents the faith all the time? You always talk. Where is this like, if you're going to publicly like say shit to people that is like, that's diabolical. To say you're a Christian and tell people to shut their fucking ditch licking mouth.
Why?
That's why?
Yeah.
Ephesians 4:9.
So let no unwholesome words come from your mouth.
Sure, we could start there.
Read the rest of it. Who's it to? Who's that talking to specifically?
Is it not to you?
Ephesians?
Is it not to you either?
Is Charlie a Christian?
have no idea. I don't think so.
Well, the answer is no. But most of these that you're talking about specifically, especially in Ephesians, was them governing liturgical. This is a liturgical document. This is talking specifically to people who are priests, people who are in control of the church, various things like this, not targeted towards laymen. And even if it was, it's still targeted to how Christians are to treat each other. Now, what did you want my proof for this? Were you aware that in Jesus's time, if you called somebody a viper or a whitewashed tomb, that they would kill you? It was so offensive.
Yeah.
It was so offensive that they would kill you. That's how grave the insult was. Now, can you tell me, did I give anybody an insult that was so grave they would kill me? No. No.
I hope not.
No. And so the thing is funny about this is like, I think that now you're doing the cherry picking, interestingly enough.
I do cherry pick.
Saying, hey, Andrew, you don't live up to the whole of the standard that I agree I have no authority to tell you to live by. And so it's like, for me, it just becomes circular nonsense, right? It's like, first of all, whatever repentance that I had would be repentance which would be done privately, not publicly. Why would I ever do that? And why would I ever repent to a non-Christian? That would be insane. Now, can I do acknowledgments of like, oh, I messed something up publicly or something like this? Sure. But if it's the case that I'm attacked, I generally do attack back as a form of, and actually that usually defuses situations rather than makes them go on and on and on. So it just depends on the context.
And look, like that's exactly the answer I expected you to give, because it's always about this highly nuanced way of viewing things. But then when we get to if I start talking like that about LGBT, about arsenokoitai and malakoi and Ish and Zakar and Leviticus 20:13 and all that, then we're going to get really, that's the word of God. It's an injunction for all of time. This is why God is against gay people, because there's these 6 or 7 passages that we're all of a sudden not going to have any nuance. And so my premise is that not that you're logical and not that you don't, everyone fucks up, but that you have a hermeneutic in which you clobber people over the head with, and it's like, you can't be gay in the church. But now we're going to be like, well, that's this part's about, it's not even to me. It's the people in Ephesus, and it's not even about a Christian. It's like, yes, okay.
I don't know. It seems to me like I've had a whole lot of nuance in this conversation about my views.
Have.
And it also seems like I'm willing to engage in the nuance that you have of yours. I have not only not strawmanned your positions, but been very careful to make sure that I steelman them, giving the most charitable view to your view I possibly can by not mangling or chewing up your words. It seems like the opposite is the case. That when it's the case that you want to directly engage in nuance, and I do, that both of us are willing to do so. When it comes to the Bible, I'm the exact same way. I understand that there's nuance all over the Bible, especially in application. The Eastern Orthodox call this economia. There's going to be even nuance between cultures and how these things are applied. I agree with all of this.
Why aren't you nuanced with queer people, dude?
Well, we are nuanced with queer people. Would you like to hear the nuanced position?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, so this would be the position of probably all Trinitarian churches that I can think of. We would consider
the UCC. Okay, so
are they Trinitarian?
I think so.
I'm not sure, but I said probably all. I'm not making the monolithic claim that all of them would agree. But let's just make this really simple, right? Do you agree with me that from your view, even if homosexuality itself is not a choice, you're born, you can't help who you're attracted to, right? You can help on whether or not you act on that attraction. You do agree with that, right?
Yeah, like what's the Schopenhauer quote? A man can do what he wills, but not will what he wills. But can I stop real quick? I don't. Can I just make?
I thought you wanted the view.
No, I do, but the term homosexual, I don't. That's a
I've heard your argument on that. It's a psychological term, but this is a word concept fallacy. So we could be making a reference using a modern term that has multiple meanings to it. And by the way, there's other meanings besides just the psychological meaning. In fact, the psychological meaning is not even the primary meaning that you'll find in the dictionary. And it's a reference under its etymology to other things like buggery, right? That's how it was referred to. Sodomite was referred to that way. This is still a referent word, which is referencing other words. So I think it's fine to use homosexuality in the commons, and I don't think anybody's confused about what we're talking about. We're talking about same-sex relationships. So Yeah. So if this is the case, then if you can't help attraction, I'm just willing to cede that part of your view, and you can help action, then the Christian view is the same thing as sex outside of marriage. It's true that every red-blooded American man in this chat really likes to fuck women, man, and finds them really hot. All right, finds lots of women really hot, but isn't out having sex with them because they consider that behavior to be sinful and despicable and awful, right? And things that need to change. So if that's the case, they're not allowed to pursue those endeavors either. The same thing is applied with homosexuality. Nobody's in the church is saying, okay, if you're a gay man, you're going to church for repentance, right? You're just not acting, right? You're not acting in that manner. And by the way, I can prove this to you. If it's the case, for instance, if we're talking about PDFs, can PDFs help their attraction? Because if the answer is no, that PDFs can't help their attraction, then you're still banking on the fact that they're just not going to act on it. That's the same standard the Christians are holding for heterosexuals and homosexuals. So it's a very consistent view.
I think that it is true that someone can have an attraction. I'm bisexual, and I have never had sex with a man, and that's a choice that is a choice and of course this is anecdotal. I'm not going to say all queer people have this. I've made choices within that, but I did not pick the attraction. In fact, I tried desperately for a long time to not have that attraction because I was given the presupposition that it was wrong.
Yeah, well, regardless of that, I can't think of any Eastern Orthodox or Catholic church or mainstream Trinitarian church that would not aid in helping a person who has same-sex attraction and is struggling with wanting to act on it. They're already not barred from the church. That's already the case that they're not barred from the church. It's just that they're held to a standard. If they want to be part of the inclusive club, you want to be member team Christian, then there's going to be ethical standards which you have to adhere to. Now, let's say one of them fucks up. They have same-sex attraction and they mess up and they go and they act on it, right? Do you think heterosexuals are immune from that? Of course not. They're going to mess up and they're going to do that too. The whole point is that they're moving their life towards repentance and away from the ideas of sin. Now, you tell me, how's that an inconsistent position? And how is it that you could ever make the demand that Christians need to relinquish that for some reason? Do we need to openly allow buggery in the church or what?
You're picking and choosing who to apply these things to. Like I heard you say to Robertson, right?
How?
You said, well, can I hearken back to what you said in Robertson, and you could tell me if it's still your position right now, that you're telling gay men that they can marry women, and you're telling straight men that they can marry women. How is that unfair?
It's completely consistent.
Right. That's like saying if you have black and white folks in the church, you're telling the men you can marry white women. You're telling the black women you can marry white women, or the white men you could marry white women. And it's like, well, why can't, so you're telling these same people to marry these, or you can marry this, but you can't marry the people you're attracted to.
But there's no inconsistent standard there.
Yes, it is.
No, I'll demonstrate it. I'll demonstrate it. Is a gay man allowed to marry a woman under Christianity?
Probably.
Yes. And is a straight man allowed to marry a woman under Christianity?
Yeah.
Okay, so if that's the case, then the standard's held for both. It's totally consistent.
I could turn it around and say, is a straight man allowed to marry a man in the church? I mean, we could
No.
play that game
actually,
all the time.
let's ask it in reverse. In fact, I'll answer it in reverse. Is a straight man allowed to marry a man? No. And is a gay man allowed to marry a man? No. Totally consistent. Totally consistent. Yes.
Right. And with no
completely
concern,
consistent. 100% consistent.
Yes. With no concern for the fucking people. That's you take logic to this point and you have no concern for the lived experiences of other people.
That's our concern is with the ethical view, not with your concern. Not with the consequentialist view.
Yeah,
all that you're saying, all you're saying is that you need to change the rules of your club so we can join. Why should we? Tell me why we should.
The church has changed their rules for a long time, up until the 19th century.
But the ones who aren't going to change the rules of their church.
You interrupted me again.
Why should they? Why should they? to accommodate you. Why?
You just hijacked literally in mid-sentence to ask me another fucking question.
Well, no, I wanted you to answer the actual question I was asking you. You were trying to change it to, well, not all churches. And it's like, that's not the spirit of the question. And I wish you wouldn't evade it, and then I wouldn't cut you off, because the spirit of the question is churches who won't, who refuse, the Christian denominations who say no homosexual marriage allowed. Why should they change their standard for you? Why should their club open itself up for non-members? Can you explain that to me?
Because you start by leading with compassion and empathy for other people. You are not including the actual lived experiences of queer people. You're saying, fuck them, I don't care. It's all about our club and the way we interpret it. And that's good. That takes me all the way back to
but what's
club. Your club includes people even in the Eastern Orthodox Church who are affirming and progressive. And, oh, they're wrong though. And it's about what it's all this like.
But that's not giving me a reason. What is the actual moral reason that you could cite for why it is that Christians who have, and through their interpretation for 2,500 years, not allowed for gay marriage, they now have to change the standard of their church to open it up for you guys to come in? Why did they have to change their standard for you? What is the actual moral argument here? All that you're doing is stating, because empathy. That's not an argument. What's the argument?
I'm giving you reasons because I believe that Jesus would want us to.
Oh, but you already said you're not an authority.
You aren't. Not. Of course, I'm not. How am I?
Then that's not.
How am I authority?
Use that. You can't use. If you say I'm giving you a non-authoritative prescription. I am not an authority to tell you that you need to change your church, but you should change your church because Jesus said you should, which then makes me the authority interpreting Jesus. It's circular. It's a massive circle, bro.
All of this religion seems circular.
If that's the case,
it's your authority because you say it's your authority.
And if that's
it's authority of the church because
I'm absolutely willing to even concede all of these points because it doesn't help you. It doesn't help you.
It doesn't help you.
If it's the case that it's all just circular and we're always just coming back to who's actually in charge around this fucking place anyway,
yeah.
Right? If that's the case, then whoever the normative authority is that people decide to follow, if they don't want gays in their club, can you tell me why they have to or should?
Because you're a dick if you don't. What am I supposed to say? Because being an asshole
there's nothing. There's no argument, right? There actually isn't any good argument that you can give other than because we really want to. We just really want to join your. Look, Andrew. We just really want to join your fucking club, bro, and you won't let us. And that hurts.
They've already been.
That hurts the
They've already been in the club. There are queer people in the church. They play praise and worship. You wouldn't have music without them. They're already in the church.
Then what are you advocating for?
What are you advocating against? They're already in the church.
Wait.
And you're already
what are you advocating?
Anyway.
What are you advocating for?
That the LGBTQ community is a part of the church.
I thought that already was the case. It's not the case. Well, then why are you advocating for it then if it's already the case? That's
because there are Christians who refuse to.
Who the hell's out there advocating that we abolish slavery? It's been abolished already, right? Like, what are you talking about?
But there are still people advocating for more civil rights and for not the repealing of civil rights. Just because we went through the civil rights movement doesn't mean we like.
Yeah, but why would you be?
We solved racism.
If you already consider these alternative churches to already be viable solutions to this problem, and you're just telling gay people to go to like startyourown.gaychurch.com. And go join those churches. What is actually even your objection here?
I don't know if I have an objection. Like I said in the opening, I would tell Christians that if they're in a church where they have views like yours, to stay away from there because they will be harmed and their lives will suffer more.
And now we go all the way back full circle to the very beginning when I already told you that I would be happy to concede if that is the debate prompt. And you want a concession that homosexuals should not join churches that men like Andrew Wilson are a part of, that I totally fucking agree with you. There is absolutely zero argument there. But before I let you get away from all of this, right, I do actually want you, if you're advocating that you think that other churches who currently do not allow LGBTQ, openly LGBTQ people in relationships, things like that, to come in nor get married, do you actually have a compelling reason for that or not?
For them to actually include them, because
Yeah.
your life is better when you are around gay people, when they're allowed to be who they want. They have happy marriages, they live happy lives, and you don't give a fuck about any of that because it's all about the deductive argument. It's all about, and it considers
Yeah, like
none
how
of
are you
these.
gonna how are you gonna
That's an
say how are you gonna say that
You interrupt me again.
attraction?
Okay.
Well, sorry, go ahead. You can
No,
finish,
go.
man.
No, my thought already.
But how can
you already accomplished your goal?
I'm not
derailing me.
Look, come on, man. Be charitable. It's a back and forth. And look, I'm willing to let you finish what you're saying. Go ahead.
I don't even remember what I was saying because you derailed me. So go ahead.
Well, I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to engage. So the thing is like, look, but how can you say that your attraction is preferential based, but my repulsion is not? How can you say, for instance, I can't help who I'm attracted to, but Andrew, you can help who you're repulsed by? How?
I wonder, like, don't think about it. Because
then don't think about who you're attracted to, bro.
The amount of energy, well, but it's my life. You guys,
and it's my life. It's the same argument both ways.
Right. And I'm so curious on why you spend so much time thinking about gay people when you're not gay. You talk about, like,
why do you spend so much time talking about straight people when you're gay?
I'm not gay. I'm
no, but
gays.
No,
they don't.
They do. They're constantly talking about straight people. Constantly.
No, they're not. That's the victim persecution complex. You got to be persecuted. You talk about, like, where you.
So they're not watching. They're not watching straight. So they're not watching shows with straight characters. They're not watching movies with straight characters. They're not talking about straight people's relationships all the time. They're not getting involved in straight people's gossip constantly. Like, bullshit, bro. Sell that shit somewhere else. That's bullshit.
And then they're taking that and they're going to legislate against the straights. They're going to take away the rights of the straights because, God damn it, the straights have too much rights. Come on, that's bullshit.
It would be it would be legislating against the straights if you told them that they have to be necessarily inclusive towards people they don't want to be inclusive towards. That's correct.
I mean, like, yeah, you just, because, see, this is why you see it as, like, I mean, this is my guess. You tell me if I'm wrong. You're saying that thinking about all these straight characters is thinking about the straights, but we don't reduce it down to where your dick goes. Like, I've never heard straights talk about anal sex more than they've talked about anal sex more than any of my gay friends. And it's like an obsession.
Yeah, right, dude. Yeah, right.
Okay.
Give me a break.
Bullshit.
Give me a break. It's the most promiscuous community on planet Earth. Like, are you even going to deny this? The homosexual community is the most promiscuous community on planet, like, bar none.
They don't talk to me about it.
It's not even close to any other community, dude. Not even close. Not even the same universe.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, the amount of
what would be your point?
The amount of single. Well, how is it that they're having all these discussions with their new partners about sex if they're not constantly talking about gay sex, dude? It's not straight people constantly talking about gay sex. How's the average gay guy going to have 3 to 4 times the average partners of a straight woman every single year? And you're saying they're talking about gay sex less than the straight people. It's like, that's just cope, dude. That's gay cope. Okay? It's gay cope. It's gay cope.
I've never heard a gay person talk about it using the terms in debate. You ejaculate into a man's feces. Like, you say wild shit about that shit. And it's like, you are obsessed where the dicks go.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, just descriptively telling the truth is an obsession, I guess.
Hey, if that's what you think gay people are doing. But straight people aren't fucking in the ass either.
Oh, no. Some of them want to put the pee-pee in the poo-poo, too.
That's just a lie. That's a lie. If you had gay friends, they tell you,
what's the lie?
That because you could douche.
Oh, okay. Oh, God.
If you had gay friends, you'd know that, bro. Come on.
I thought you guys didn't talk about that stuff.
I didn't say we don't talk about it, but
you did. You said,
not to the extent.
My gay friends have never talked to me about gay sex. But if you had gay friends, you would know that you can douche your ass so that men don't get shit on it when they fuck you. It's like, what are you talking?
There's the straw man.
That's a massive contradiction, bro. Total contradiction. No, it's a contradiction.
No,
how is it that you're never
strawmanned me?
How is it you're never talking about gay sex with your friends, but on the other hand, you know how gays are supposed to have the most hygienic forms of sex? Can you explain this to me?
I never said that I don't talk about any sex with my friends. I said to the extent that straight people are talking about what gay people do with their dicks, gay people do not talk about themselves and sex like that, and especially about straight sex. We're not obsessed with what you guys are doing. I'm not. I don't talk to. I'm married to a woman. I don't
Oh,
talk to other
come
friends who
on,
are
dude.
married to a
The
woman.
quintessential like lisping gay dude is always all up in women's businesses about who they're dating, what the guy is like, what kind of sex they're having, and you know every other. Did you, girl? Did you get? Did you do it unprotected? Oh, you're so bad, girl. They're always all up in fucking the straight people's business. What are you talking about, dude? Gay
But
cope.
then
That's
they're
gay. That's 100% gay cope. Ask any woman who's ever worked at a makeup counter, hair salon, whatever. They're always all up in their business. Give me a break.
that is true. However, they don't then go like pine on how are we going to legislate the straights? How are we going to tell them, well, they can just have their straight church? I can apply all the same shit that you're saying toward queer people. I could apply it to straights. And if the roles were reversed, you wouldn't like it. You'd be like, it would be it wouldn't be so. You're like, why are we legislating against straights? Blah blah. Like, why do you legislate? Why
Yeah,
do we
look,
advocate?
I agree that whatever agenda you want to legislate, I don't like it. I'm not going to like it. And so I don't want you to do that. And so I'm going to try to keep power away from you by making sure that people that I want to legislate the things that I want get into power. Yes, I agree. 100%. You nailed me. You got me, bro. I
But there's no
1000% only want people in power who are going to legislate my worldview. Crazy. Just like you.
Yeah, well, sure. I think the only difference is that there's no gay agenda taking away the straight rights. We're
Well,
not structuring society.
No,
We're
instead
not
they're doing
structuring
something.
society.
Instead, they're doing something worse. Oh, go ahead. They're not structuring society.
We're
Go
not
ahead.
structuring society violently in structural violent terms, where one group of people is afforded rights and another group of people simply because they both got a dick or they both got a sniz. I mean, I got to give you credit when you said that. I thought it was hilarious. I never heard
It
that
was
term
it was materially funny. But that aside,
It was
I gotta ask you though, what rights do straight people have, gays don't?
What rights do straight people have that gays don't?
Mhm.
Well, we've done a lot to make it equal. They're trying to.
Yeah. So can you answer my question?
Currently, there's a lot there. I think we're getting to where we're getting onto some more
So
equal
none?
footing because
You
we
can't name
fought
one?
for it.
You can't
Because
name
queer
one?
people fought for it.
So you can't name a single right that straight
And-
people have, gays don't have?
Well, in some states, they're going to repeal gay marriage. I'm sure.
They can't. It's constitutionally protected. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? It's a the Constitution now has been amended for this. What do you mean?
The
What are you talking about?
Constitution. Who the fuck in this Trump regime gives a fuck about the Constitution, bro?
Look, unless you repeal Obergefell, right?
Which they might.
No,
They would
well, that
try.
would be great. That would be great. Okay,
See?
but
So you are advocating for rights to be taken away.
well, no rights would be taken away. You would still be able to marry the exact same
Really?
group of people that I would be able to marry, a woman.
Oh, yeah, that's clever. That's fucking clever.
So what right are you losing?
That is clever.
What right do you not get that I get?
The right to marry the adult that I choose.
No. I can't just marry the adult that I choose. I have to marry a woman, just like you.
You do choose a woman. You're
But
straight.
even if I didn't, I still would have to, wouldn't I?
But you will. And it's very convenient.
It's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant because it applies to you, and you're
That's
not
right,
giving
and
the
it
same.
applies to
you're
you.
not giving. No, you're not giving the same charity. You're twisting words.
There's no word twisting. You have the right to marry a woman, and I have the right to marry a woman.
Yeah.
We both have the same exact right.
And if we said to black people, you have the right to marry a white woman, and you have to white people, you have the right to marry a white woman, I'd say that's fucking racist, and you'd probably be like, no, maybe not, and that wouldn't surprise me either.
So
you're twisting
I don't understand.
semantics.
How do you tie in miscegenation here when it would be the case that black men would have the same rights as white men, and black women would have the same rights as white women? Both, it would be the same rights across the board for all men and all women, regardless of sex, creed, whatever. The case would be that you could marry a woman and I could marry a woman. We're on completely even playing field, sir.
Right. Yeah. Even though you're straight and let's say I'm gay in this scenario, that's super cool.
Nobody's
bro.
saying. Does anybody say that you have to marry a woman?
No, but I don't get to. Again, it's structurally violent. If I'm not going to
No,
hold, I'm not
what
going
do
to
you mean?
hold.
How is it structurally violent?
Because you're a. Well, do you know what structural violence is? I
Yeah,
mean, it's
yeah. So,
okay.
so that liberal key frame, sure, but here, this would even fall under the progressive key frame of structural violence. That would be for like the idea of disproportionate justice, but you can't point to what's unjust here.
Because you don't want to see it. Because we all got blind spots. You don't want to see it.
I want to see it. Show me.
But the way you
show me the injustice. I'm waiting for the structural violence. What is it?
I will repeat myself. You are affording to one group of people who happen to be straight that they can marry. Oh, it just so happens the people they're attracted to. And you're telling men or women, I'm assuming you're also against lesbian sex. You're telling men that they cannot marry the person that they are attracted to because fuck it, logic, I guess.
Well,
right?
Can I ask you a question?
That's
Can we find out if that's true or not? Because that doesn't even make sense to me. Can you tell me why shouldn't 5 men be able to get married together?
I don't know. Maybe they shouldn't.
So you think that 5 men getting married would be fine?
What the fuck do I care? Why not?
What about 20?
How about the whole world? Like you said, all men that you're going to have Brandon Robertson marry the whole world.
Well, I'm just asking you, should 20 men be able to get married?
Should they?
Yeah.
I have no fucking clue.
Why
I would
not?
say no, because relationships.
Why can't they marry whoever they want and whoever they're attracted to? Why can't they marry 20 men?
They can. I would say,
they can.
My personal view, I'd say I would be careful about that because you don't just have 20 relationships. You have 20 times 20 relationships. You have 400 relationships. That seems complicated as fuck.
So can 20 men get married and then adopt all the same child together?
Yeah, I guess. Why? Yeah.
So then what does custody look like there?
I wouldn't recommend it.
Well, I mean, but you have no odd against it, right?
Are you against a man marrying 20 women?
Well, you see, that's illegal for men to marry. That's called polygamy, right?
Yeah.
Well, so you are advocating. You are advocating for some rights that you want gay men to have that straight men don't have, huh? Unless you're advocating.
I'm okay with polyamory. I'm fine. I have polyamorous friends.
So straight people should be able to marry, like one guy should be able to marry 15 women at once.
Should? What do you mean should?
Should be able to.
Should be able to?
Yeah, you want them to be able to do that.
I'm not. Who am I to stop them? I don't get. I have the humility to say I'm not the what. Why do you want to stop? Why the fuck do you care? Should they be able to? Sure. Why not?
Sure.
If that's what they're. Yeah. Why not? What's the reason? You're not. What's the reason against it?
Because what you're doing. Yeah. So here's my reasoning, right? And this is why I want to get the view out. Do you think that would radically transform society and how family units currently operate and the dynamics of normalcy inside the social cohesion of society if that was the case?
Would it disrupt it? Is that the first?
Massively.
Sure. Maybe.
Yeah, sure. So if I want a more stable society, then advocating against that would probably create more stability. So the idea here that's interesting to me is that on the one hand, you say, I'm not really for radical positions that are destabilizing. I just want some rights, man. I just want some rights for my people group. Hang on, man. I just want men to be able to marry who they want. But when we get to it, it's not just that, is it? What it really is that you don't actually mind if men marry a lot of who they want all at the same time. Or heterosexual people, you have to say that in order to stay consistent with your rights ideology. But that's going to create radical disruption in the society that I live in. Why the fuck do I want that again? Can you tell me why I should want that?
Why? Because there's a lot of reasons.
It's cool. Because it's cool, man. Is it just cool? Is it like, would I just be a cooler guy if I would just let my whole society get fucking destroyed? Or
go ahead. We're destroying our planet without all these things. So you got this idea that like we all need to have a certain amount of how many kids you have? 2.7, 2.4, 2.8. We got to make sure we hit that. Why? So we can burn the planet quicker. And I know,
that's a pivot to global warming. Come on.
Yeah, and so yeah, fine. And that's a part of why I'm cool with us not having as many children. Why the fuck do I? And I thought Jesus was coming back. Isn't Jesus coming back? He
That's
said in
not
like a week.
our
Oh, you guys-
eschatology. Our eschatology is distinct from Protestants.
Okay.
Yes,
Cool.
I
No,
agree with
yeah.
you. There's lots of Protestants who every generation they're like, yeah, you know, Jesus is coming back right now, blah blah blah. I get it.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, I understand. But the eschatological claim aside, this actually makes no sense to me. So really what you're for is radical transformation of the society that I'm in. Well, hang on. Here's how radical the transformation is. Not only do you advocate for a polygamous society, but on top of that, you advocate for less children in a society with a massively declined birth rate, which is going to lead to a huge importation of mass migration. Why? Because we have to have somebody to take care of the elderly if we're not having enough children to do that. Thank you, man. My society already under your view is looking on the up and up. I sure am glad that we were able to get all of that through just so that you could stay consistent with why it is that you want to, you know, be able to marry a fucking guy. It's like, that's just crazy to me. Radical transformation to stay consistent.
It's crazy to use not really much of an argument. You're sitting here thinking like,
no, that's not the argument. Can you be charitable to my argument and repeat back what I'm saying to you? What my actual argument here is.
No, I understand your argument.
Well, what is it?
You straw man me because it's like, hey man, it's cool. You say all these things, that's fine. You want to steamroll.
Well, I'm not talking about the rhetorical devices, but the actual argument that I'm laying down.
But you throw them in there so
well, then let me give you the concise argument. It's like this.
Please.
You are actually advocating for radical change in society because in order for you to be consistent with your view that you should just be able to marry who you want because you're attracted to them or whatever, then you have to bite the bullet on polygamy, on polygyny, on any sort of mismatch. Well, you can't argue against those things and argue for why it is that same-sex couples should be allowed to get married. It's the same shit, non-procreative, right? It's not leading towards any greater stability, so you have to bite the bullet on all of these other positions. But if you do bite the bullet on all those other positions, that leads to mass destabilization. That's the argument.
Okay, so polygamy is not something I'm for. Polyamory is different.
Wait, why aren't you for polygamy?
Because there's power structures there. There's
power structures in every relationship.
Yeah, I think there's unhealthy ones there. But beside the point, let's just let me just at least. All
right.
I think I know your point. I think what you're basically arguing for is if I get my way, then all of a sudden everyone's going to be doing this. It's like such a small minutia of the population that I know that are polyamorous or even that are gay. Like, yes, I know percentages can go up. I know that's happened with left-handedness. Left-handedness used to be a smaller minority, and as left-handedness got accepted in the culture, people, oh my God, there's more left-handed people. That's not what happened. We just finally got to the actual statistical data that shows how many left-handed people there are. You're creating this scenario. It's like a fear tactic. You're like, if we allow this, then the society is going to be so destabled because there's just so many gay dudes fucking each other all over the place that no one's going to be having procreative sex.
No, that's not the argument.
But it would be enough to destabilize the population.
Well, here's the thing. It's funny. If it's the case that this is just a very infinitesimal amount of people, then why should we give a shit and restructure society for it anyway? That's dumb on its face. That's dumb on its face. Why restructure?
We're not.
Why am I going to restructure all of society for this infinitesimal group? Why?
We're not restructuring society.
Well, then I don't understand. Then give me your argument for why it is that one guy can't marry 20 women. Again, what is it?
If it's a loving, consensual, other-oriented relationship all the way around,
that's radical transformation from the norm, bro. You are offering radical transformation from the norm, which is a destabilizing factor in society, in order to accommodate a very minute amount of people by your own admission in order to stay consistent. You're getting rid of the rules and regulations that keep society going just so that this infinitesimal amount of people can do this. And by the way, speaking of the slippery, is it the slippery slope? Then you explain to me where the trans agenda came from, because that came out of the gay agenda. Okay? That didn't come out of no straight agenda. And if you think that the slippery slope ain't real, then you explain that shit. Explain the transing kid shit. Explain that to me. how the fuck that came out of anywhere except the LGBTQ community, and how it is that that's not 100% something I can point to and say it's not a slippery slope anymore. This
How is
thing
it-
actually led to this thing.
Even so, why is that so destabilizing?
Because when you are permissive towards behavior, which is awful behavior, it destabilizes society. You have at the highest echelons of government people fighting because it is the case that they want to reimagine what sex is, what they want to reimagine what gender is. They want to reimagine social and societal stabilizers because you guys want to accommodate this tiny, teeny, tiny infinitesimal amount of people.
We do the same thing all the time.
Well, for what? For what?
Let me give you an example. So-called alpha men talk in front of a microphone these days. But if you travel 1,000 years back, that is not what alpha men were. So we have accommodated to what true masculinity is in this society when compared to what masculinity was back in the day. We would look like a bunch of beta cucks.
Well, first of all, there's a bunch of rejections I'm going to give you here. The first one is that masculinity, the idea of it actually has not changed. The idea of it is based in virtue, not based in me grunt bash thing overhead. That's never been the idea of masculinity from any historic standard that I've ever found anywhere. This is something that is often a straw man position of leftists who will look at 2 or 3 content creators who drive around in fucking Bugattis with their shirt off and go, that's not what real masculinity is. Well, it's like, that's never been the Christian case for what masculinity nor femininity is either. But on top of that, society is not reimagining itself to accommodate those people. That's not happening.
That's good,
bro.
So
it's like, that's not even a good argument for your case. Society is, unfortunately, though, having to fight for years over this idea that we can change the sex of a 9-year-old. And that came specifically out of your ideology, not out of mine. And it's like, so don't point to me and say, that's just the slippery slope, bro. Right? When you say if homosexuals are allowed to radically reimagine society in their own image, that's not going to be a big deal. We already see that it was a big deal. They already did it. It's already been a big deal. It's a big deal right now.
Okay. For one, the trans issue is not my lane, so I won't speak too authoritatively on it. And remember, I don't have any authority, and neither do you. So, yeah. So there are trans people. Like it's good. Like, is it applied appropriately in every situation? I can't say that, but it's good that people are accepting of trans people and people who have gender non-binary and gender dysphoria and things like we should accept them.
Well, tell me how has society gotten more stable because of all of this? Can you explain that to me? Hasn't this radical agenda completely destabilized the social fabric of this society? For instance, right now, the
society that benefits you.
Well, it benefits everybody, actually. It even benefits them, and I'll prove it to you. Right now, it's the case that you have a problem, an overwhelming problem with self-assigned T-gender people, transgender individuals, who will unalive themselves in their teenage years due to the fact that they feel like they're not accepted. And yet, when it was the case that they were never allowed to be out in public this way, and it was completely unallowed in society, you saw the youth suicide rate at all-time lows, bro. Not even close to what it is now. So that tells me that the social phenomenon is actually creating problems where there were not problems before. Not that these people were people who were just trying to express themselves and now they can. If that was the case, then you explain the suicidality levels being so distinct when they weren't allowed to be that way versus now that they are.
Because when people come out to their family, when people come out to their church, and if they just stay silent, then they won't be ridiculed because people won't know what to ridicule them on.
And so they kill themselves. And so when they kill themselves less, bro, like that seems like a benefit to me.
That's a twisted way of viewing it.
How am I wrong?
A better view would be if they should be accepted.
If it's the case that they used to kill themselves way less when they weren't allowed to be open about it, and now they're allowed to be open about it, they kill themselves way more. Why is it a good idea for them to be open about this again?
It's you're forgetting something.
What?
The non-acceptance of them and the stigmatizing of them, the demonizing of them.
Why would you kill yourself less if there was more stigma?
I'm saying Because the stigma's out, because we weren't talking about trans people, because people weren't coming out.
You realize that you just went and panicked because you don't have an answer, bro? I'm going to ask you again. Why would they kill themselves less when there was way more stigma?
When was there way more stigma?
Oh, I don't know. Clear up through the 1980s.
It wasn't even an issue we were really talking about.
Exactly. And teens were killing themselves way less than they are now.
And now they're coming out, and their churches and their family are rejecting them and kicking them out onto the streets.
So that would entail that when we were more stigmatizing towards it, where you couldn't even come out, you couldn't even talk about it, they actually were less likely to kill themselves.
Wow. So stigmatize them more and not take any goddamn responsibility.
I'm not asking for you to parrot it. I'm asking
Thank you for interrupting me. Thank you for interrupting
What's the argument?
All the fucking time.
I just want the argument. Interrupt. So do you. What's the argument? Just tell me the argument, dude.
The argument is, if you accept people for who they are, they will not have the same mental health and issues.
And yet churches. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
But churches and families are kicking youth out into the streets because they're finding out that they're not cis, or they're not straight, or they're not abiding by the rules set down by society. And then you want to put that on us accepting them and letting them come out and not take any responsibility for your role as the church and as families who don't accept these people.
Let's try this. Let's try this again, because you're not actually answering what I'm asking you. Like, here's the question I'm asking you, and I'll make it really easy. Do you think that trans and LGBTQ people were more discriminated in like 1920, 30, 40, and 50 than they are right now?
I have no idea.
You have no idea if in the 1950s, when homosexuality was illegal, that they weren't? Yeah, of course. Okay, so they were way more discriminated against back then. How come they killed themselves so much less?
Back then?
Yeah.
I wouldn't know how, but if you're going to say that there's some correlation, you have to show. I mean, are you saying there's a causation between?
I'm asking you a question. Why would it be when this group is the least stigmatized that it's ever been? Is it killing itself the most that it ever has?
Well, if that's true, then I don't know.
Then it must not be stigma, right? It must be something else then, because they were at all-time highs for stigmatization. So what happened?
I don't know why they're killing themselves, but they're reporting that there's a strong correlation between the churches and the families who do not accept them when they come out.
So stigma, and yet there was way more stigma before, and they were killing themselves way less. That's bizarre to me. That makes me think P and not P, that you're in a walking contradiction here.
There was more stigma societally. There was so much stigma that they didn't come out. So
yeah, exactly.
If you don't come out, and your family does not know you're gay, let's say.
Yeah.
And you stay silent about it.
Yeah.
Versus you come out in a less stigmatizing society because you feel more comfortable overall.
Right.
But you then get kicked out by your church. You then get kicked out by your family. I can see why those people then getting kicked to the street, there would be more mental health that leads to suicide.
So then my question then, so hang on. So logically then, it would be the case that if they're not coming out and they're stigmatized against more by your own admission of what you just said, that would actually mean that stigmatization prevents them from killing themselves more.
In that very limited scenario.
In that very limited scenario.
But you're not allowing for a society that says we accept you and embrace you. You're just refusing to acknowledge that society that I would envision would lead to even less suicide. But we don't try it.
Well, when's it going to do that?
When you guys fucking accept them. When you accept them.
How much more acceptance can you get? You got every right on planet Earth and then some. And it's still just not accepting enough because some people won't let you join their church.
Yeah, that's very important for some people.
Yeah, it's very important. We have to open up our churches that you can't make an argument for why we should. Got it.
You can't. Well, I can make arguments. I appeal to Jesus. I appeal to the scriptures.
The things that you say you're not an authority on, I shouldn't listen to you because you're not an authority.
An authority. I can be an authority. I'm not.
Are you an authority?
I mean, it's insofar as it goes.
What does that mean? Yes or no? Are you an authority or not?
Well, again, you're so reductive. You're cooking the whole sauce out. There's no
Look,
liquid in the pan.
bro, this is not a reductive answer. It's the law of excluded middle. You're either something or you're not. Are you an expert in this or are you not an expert in this? I mean, are you an authority or are you not?
Insofar as fallible humans can make claims about the divine and how we should relate to the divine.
So you have as much authority as anybody else has, or you have more?
Well, in terms of study, I have probably more than definitely more than the average person. But
okay, so then would you consider yourself to be an authority in this? And should I adhere to your authority?
To some degree, but very limited, just like yours is very limited because we're all just one person. So to some degree, yes.
Then all you're doing is saying that my authority is just as good as yours.
Well, I mean, if that's, yeah, I mean, your interpretations, I find, I'm sure I would say that you have every right to interpret the Bible this way. You have every right to interpret Jesus this way.
Thank you.
You can choose to pick and choose what you want to really emphasize.
And I can choose not to let homosexuals into the church, and you have no argument against it.
And you have no argument for queers coming together and creating a queer church and calling it the church and being, they could be Eastern Orthodox too.
Look, you guys can do that, but unless you say that it's immoral for us to legislate against that, and you can point out some standard that you can point to for why, then I don't see why we shouldn't.
And if you can say, why is it immoral for two loving gay people to get married and to live together and do the same exact shit you and I do? With our, I mean, no, I don't want to.
Because it's against my preferences, and if something's against my preferences, I legislate against that thing because I don't like it. And if enough people agree with me, this is a democracy, by God. And as a good standing member in this democracy, then we can pass the legislation we want based on our ethics, and you just have no objection to it.
And I could turn around and say the same to you.
Perfect. Then don't bitch when Christian nationalists take authority in government, because that's what the reception is. It's called backlash. And that's what happens when you decide, hey, what we want to do is take your good churches that we're not in because you won't let us, and you need to open them up or else. And it's like, well, or else what? Or else we'll take power, or else we'll take power and legislate that that gays have to be married and things like this. It's like, well, fine. Then we'll take power and say that they can't be. It's the same fucking argument.
Yeah, I don't understand then how Christianity is set apart as some sort of like like then I guess I don't understand I don't understand the Jesus who came to serve people. I don't understand the Jesus. It should be about power. Jesus should have taken the deal in Luke 3. Just take power, bro. And why stop at like
have no power to
and how do we
abolish slavery, do things like this the same way that any government would enforce something with force.
Okay.
Isn't that how the government would enforce your rights right now?
Sure, I suppose, right?
Yeah. So I don't even understand, like, how's that an argument? How would you enforce it? You'd enforce it the same way you would enforce it. With force.
Right.
That's how we would enforce it. It's right in the word. In and force. No. They come together to make force, right?
Right. So it's you get enough people, get the most power, get the most strong men. We can all like arm wrestle and figure out who has the most power and just dominate it. Just do that. That's Christianity. That's cool. That's fine.
Well, nobody said that that's the totality of Christianity. What I'm saying is that in order to protect the very ethical system, which secularists say should not even have the power to rule, because that's not what good Christians would do. In order to protect ourselves from the madness of secularists, we have to put ourselves in positions of authority so that they cannot override our ethical system. Yes.
So you picked Donald Trump.
And Christians have traditionally done that. He was better than Kamala Harris.
Okay.
And we could come back and have a debate on that too. Look, I did enjoy the debate. I thought it was a fun back and forth, man. I did actually enjoy it. So
I had fun. I feel like you skirt all the shit that applies to you, and you want to really hammer in on the shit that doesn't apply to you. And that was my premise at the start. You're totally fine hammering people when they don't quite tiptoe around all these, and that's great. That's what Socratic stuff. We should be all about that. But then when it comes to you, you're like, oh, you won't even entertain my other world, because that's.
I did entertain your other world. What do you mean?
And you said it's not. Well, you said it's not logically possible, so I don't even have to answer the question.
No, well, listen, man, I'll explain. If you think that that's unfair, right? Superman's logically possible. Wolverine's logically possible. Those things are logically possible, right?
Okay.
But
Sure.
Christian ethics can't exist as a logical possibility if we took something out like Jesus. So if you were to say, hey, Andrew, what would Christianity look like without Jesus? Well, that's a logical impossibility from my view, right? It's logically, from my view, that couldn't happen because otherwise the view doesn't exist anymore. So logical possibility is dependent upon the possibility of worldview. Always. Your worldview is different than mine, so your access to logical possibility is different than mine. But when you ask something like, what happens if we took the very ontology that you believe and reversed it, right, within the confines of my worldview, that's logically not possible.
Right. And so so it's not logically possible that you could have been born into this world and the Jesus that you base your ethics on is a part of this world that like, do you understand? I'm not asking you to like
that would be a logical impossibility, yes. Because that would remove the ontology of Jesus where he died for some other group other than human sins or something. So that would destroy the worldview.
Why can't there be a Jesus who did exactly all the same things, all the same teachings, except literally the only difference is male on male procreative sex? Like, I don't understand why. Yes, it is
because it would violate ontology, Christian ontology. If you violate ontology, that's not logically possible. It's a state of very being, right? So if the idea here is God made another planet and it's full of other humans, and then Jesus went and died for their sins too. And then when he died for their sins, it just so happens that the sexes are reversed, right? From my viewpoint, this is logically impossible. It's a logical impossibility. So no, I don't entertain things which are logically impossible. I only entertain things which are logically possible.
Do you believe, are you open to the possibility that there are people on other planets?
I don't think there are, no. And I do.
Is it logically possible? Is it logically possible?
Give you some people? No. No.
It's not logically possible for other people to exist on other planets.
Not people like us, no.
Sentient beings with sentience, consciousness, no. It's not logically possible.
It depends. That it's possible. It is logically possible that you could have sentience, perhaps, on a different planet or something like this, but they wouldn't be people. They wouldn't be human beings. So that might be logically possible within the Christian view, but it's not going to be logically possible that you have human beings who are created on another planet or something like this, and we have all the same DNA except our gender or our sexes are reversed or whatever.
So, can you explain why?
Yeah, because Jesus Christ's promise was to the world and earth and to humanity. And when God created humanity, he created Adam and Eve. That's what he did. The entire ontology of Christianity stems in a continuity. And if that continuity becomes broken, then the idea of the pillars of Christianity go away. So like if gray aliens came down from outer space and said, we had a Jesus over here too, Christianity would be fucked.
I can't wait.
We would have a big
I really
problem.
Hope it's true. I really hope it's true.
It's really not, though. You've been watching too much Ancient Aliens. Disclosure coming soon. Disclosure coming soon.
I think I know. I don't actually believe in that, but I do believe mathematically, yeah, there's got to be something similar to human beings. Well, didn't C.S. Lewis entertain the idea of people on other planets? I just think that's a really small Christianity. I don't see a reason why there can't be an interpretation of Christianity that includes sentient beings on another planet. I think you could. I don't know how. I don't understand. I guess maybe I'm adult. How that's logically not possible.
So human beings have specific criteria and they have specific souls, right? And we are image bearers of God. Is that right? Okay. So
yeah, I believe that.
Yeah. So we have these specific qualities inside of our ontology that make us unique. Unique even in comparison to other animals. Unique even in comparison to angels, right? We're unique compared to all beings which exist because we're made directly in the image of God. If you were to take some other like humanity which existed somewhere out there and then say these beings also exist in the likeness and image of God, then you would destroy the entire foundations for which Christianity is residing. It's residing on the idea foundationally that human beings are unique in the fact that they are the image bearers of God.
Oh. Yeah, I leave a lot of room open for my Christian or my quasi Christianity. We'll say that. Yeah, unique, but unique and exclusive. Like we're unique
Well, you can't be unique if you're not exclusive.
How I'm
Like if there was more than one of you, how unique would you be?
well, if
You
it,
wouldn't be very
yeah,
unique, right?
no, I think you could be not as unique, certainly, but I just yeah, I mean, I still think that you can have. It's a big universe, bro. Like it's a big universe, and I just that's a very limiting view.
Yeah,
But
well,
I guess it's not
Fermi's paradox has explored this. The sounds of the forest, hypothetical, have explored this, and the
Perma.
likelihood that there's intelligent life out there is so infinitesimally small, even mathematically infinitesimally small, but even mathematically almost impossible that it would be sentient life that's humanoid that could intergalactically travel and somehow be on par with human. That's all Star Trek shit, man.
Maybe. If it happens one day, I hope you remember this and be like, "Oh shit, we're fucked."
I've said this. Listen, I've said this publicly, and look, I've gone through the logic many times, and I've said this publicly. If it was the case that there was actual extraterrestrial beings who were humanoid in some sense, right, who were on par in sentience with humanity, I think Christianity would have a lot to answer for.
Would you still follow Jesus?
Well, I don't. Again, what you're asking me for here is to entertain hypotheticals that to me are not even possible. So the answers
That's
become
that's just
well.
a cop out, man.
The
Can
answers
we just
become
talk? Can
well.
we just talk?
The answers become impossible. Okay, here I'll tell you what. I'll answer that question. What would if you answer this one? What would you do if fire wasn't hot?
What would I do if I guess I'd be like Gandalf when he puts the ring in the fire and he picks it up.
Yeah, what would you do if fire wasn't hot? Answer me honestly.
Answer you honestly, I'd pick up logs that were burning. It would look cool.
Well, so I don't understand. That's not engaging with what I'm asking. I'm
You asked me
asking
what I would do
well,
if fire wasn't
first of all,
hot.
explain to me what fire is like when it's not hot.
It doesn't exist.
Well, exactly. So it's contrary. It's a logical impossibility, right? Doesn't it's non-existent from your worldview. You can't entertain it because it can't exist.
Oh, I entertain it. It's fun. It's entertaining.
Yeah. So tell me, how would non-hot fire work?
I have no idea. We don't have it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. It's a logical impossibility. So when you ask me questions like this, you're asking me things like,
But
what if it would be the equivalent of saying,
that's different, though.
What if Satan became God tomorrow? It's like, well, that's a logical impossibility from the
That
view.
no, these are not good analogies. Fire. That's like saying that it's a logical impossibility that any sentient being lives in this goddamn huge universe is the same kind of analogy as like
from my view.
From your view. Okay, so there you go. You got these presuppositions built in that are
yes,
like your.
Of course, it's a view.
Your defense.
Of course, it's a worldview.
Like,
of course,
it's like yeah, I'm gonna put those up so I don't have to answer all this shit. Like,
no, bro,
yeah,
you have the same shit. You have inside of your worldview things which are also logically impossible. Completely like, for instance, a contradiction's logically impossible, right? Can you have this conversation? What would it be like right now if you weren't having this conversation with me?
Well, I'm trying to go back to you said contradictions are not possible. I got to think about that though.
Yeah, P and not P. Logical contradictions, impossible.
I understand it from that perspective.
You can't both exist and not exist, right?
Well, in the quantum world, you can.
No, you can't.
Yes,
no
in the
world
quantum
can
world.
you? No,
in the quantum world, yes. Subatomic particles are yes.
Subatomic particles exist.
Right, and they're both coming in and out of existence.
No.
Yeah, no. I'm gonna look that up. I'm gonna look that up.
They exist.
This might be an opportunity, depending on how many topics you guys would like to cover yet. Otherwise, I want to remind folks, both of our guests are linked in the description box. Check out our guests. We appreciate them. They're the lifeblood of the channel. That is included at the podcast. We put our guest links there in the description box for the podcast episodes. If you listen to the Modern Day Debate podcast, which you can find on fine podcast apps everywhere, you can find both Andrew and Matthew linked in that description box too. Matthew, did you find the thing you were looking for?
Oh yeah, I mean it's like in a way they exist as like a wave and then a particle if we observe them.
So they exist. And the only way that we can observe them not existing in the same space at the same time is when we observe different wave functions, right? So we can have the pellet function, we can have the wave function, but that's still existence.
Yeah, no,
What you're talking about is like,
I was just
how
talking
could
through it.
subatomic particles exist if they didn't exist?
Well, yeah, like quantum gets funky. So I was just talking through it, man.
Yeah,
It's all good.
I'm just
It's all
telling you
good.
from the perspective
good.
of like of worldview. So this was hard for me to wrap my head around too. The idea that worldviews are going to have confinements for what pertains to logical possibility. It's not actually evasive. I'm just explaining to you that if you
Well,
remove the
yeah.
entire pillar from what it is that I base the entirety of my worldview on and then ask me about it, it becomes incomprehensible to me because the entirety of how I interpret the world is now gone from the view.
Yes. And to then equate that with fire not being hot, that is a leap of, that's not a great analogy. That's not because you're
Well, whether it
building
is
this,
or not,
you're building,
it's still the case though.
You're building this worldview. I don't have a worldview that I don't. Are we going to call it a worldview that fire is hot? That I believe that.
Well, no, the worldview wouldn't be that fire's hot and not hot.
Right.
And you believe it.
So
the worldview would be the pillars in which allow you to entertain the various ideas within the worldview of possibility itself.
Yeah, and you've erected some very convenient pillars so that you don't have to entertain these very hypothetical things, and then you're going to say, "Oh, I don't want to. I'm not going to answer that because it would violate the logic."
Okay, I'll tell you what.
I'll
tell you what. Give me another one. Give me whatever you want, and I'll entertain it the best I possibly can within the confines of my worldview. What if aliens existed somewhere and then came down here? Andrew, would you stop being a Christian and believe in Jesus? Was that the question?
That was. I wanted to know.
Okay, here you go. You ready for this? I don't know.
I'm ready. Oh, okay, good. I like that answer.
There you go. I don't know.
I love that answer.
I couldn't know because it runs contrary to my worldview.
No, I get that.
There you go.
I get that. Bro. It's just there's a lot of convenience in this, and I think we went round and round in admitting the same thing. Like both of our arguments are circular in a way. Like we are both presupposing different things that allow us to believe this thing. And you're choosing to have a certain view of the Bible, your tradition, the apostolic fathers, all of that. And I'm choosing to base my worldview on my experiences. I'm not a Wesleyan, but critical thinking, experiences, tradition, scripture. I think that putting all those things together and trying to interpret the world, and we both go round and round circularly. And so it's going to come down to you're saying, if I can be super reductive, I suppose, is that I mean, my argument is like, why wouldn't you include them? And you're like, why wouldn't you let us exclude them? And
do you know why? But do you know why? It's because your worldview. Well, no, I'll just explain the distinct difference.
Oh, okay.
The most reductionist I can be.
Okay, yeah.
Your worldview actually doesn't have anything to do with Christian ethics. It just has to do with preference. And so
no, I think it does, though. Because I serve people like bread and loaves. It like serving the poor,
but
doing
all
Matthew
of those,
25.
Interestingly enough,
that's all ethics, is it
like
not?
Here, would you do all of those same things if you weren't a Christian?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't.
Well, then that's how I know it's preference based.
No, okay. Why. So first of all, I probably don't do it enough because I'm not a great.
But that's not the question, right? The question was, would you do all those things if you weren't a Christian? You say yeah. So it's like you're just talking about your preferences, bro.
I would say in a way, but Jesus modeled it the best way. See, again, you go to this like yes or no stuff, and it's like, yes, I would do those things because I think they're universal ethics that all the great enlightened teachers teach in some way. Of course, they're different. Of course, the Buddha is different. He comes from a different context, of course. But Jesus, I do believe, modeled it in the best way, the best model for us. And that's very important in Mimetic theory. And it allows us something to follow. And so I would think that I would, if I was really tuned to the universe and God and trying to listen to the voice of God, I would hope that I would come somewhere near where Jesus lands, because I feel like he is the perfect representation of God.
One last question before we end, because
we got Q&A, right?
Because you just stated the view. I'm almost done. I just
of course.
Have you ever heard of the Seminole people who exist on a small island called Papua New Guinea?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah,
I've heard of them, but I don't know. I mean,
what would you now? The Seminole people in the small island, just so that you know, what they do is they're called the Cum Warriors of Papua New Guinea. That's the shorthand. And what they do is this is true. You can look it up right now if you don't believe me. They're called the Seminole Warriors, and what they do is they basically do bad things to little boys in order to make them eat certain excrements from their body.
I got you.
Okay. And this is part of their culture. And the boys keep coming back for it. They want more of it. The little boys want more of that because that's the right of manhood inside of that culture, right? That's what they do. Would you go in there as a Christian and intervene? Would you go in there and be like, you can't fucking do that because it violates universal ethics? Would you do that?
Would I do that? That's tough. Would I personally do that? Probably not.
No. Would you direct governments to go in there and break it up, even though that's part of their cultural norm? They've
I'd have
been
to
like
have a-
that for thousands of years. They see you as the aggressor. They see you as the awful person. They definitely see you as worse than a guy who said that you're a snizzlicker once. Would you go in there and do that to him?
That's a tough question. I don't know.
You don't know?
Would you?
Yeah, fuck yeah, I'd go in there and stop him from fucking. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, Christians,
Well, yeah. If I have,
Christians did put a stop
Would I-
to it because they said
okay,
it violates universal ethics. Fuck that. You're not doing it anymore. Go straight to hell. We're not allowing you to fucking do
Okay.
this to little boys, you sick bastards, because it violates universal principles. So it
Yeah.
transcends the idea of preference. Your
Okay.
ideas only sit within the confines of how much Jesus Christ happens to align with preferences of things you would do without him.
Okay, well, I would think that if I got the whole context, if that is truly the context, yeah, I would stop that. I would stop what went on Epstein Island. I would stop all this shit. I would stop any trafficking, any exploitation, any grooming, any violating the vulnerability of minors. Of course.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Okay,
mean
we agree on
well,
that,
now you're
right?
willing.
Like-
Now you're willing to, but a few minutes ago,
Now?
you weren't. Well, you were confused a few minutes ago when I asked you about it. I'm just saying.
I process information a little different.
Okay, that's
Like,
fair.
Give me 2 seconds.
I'm giving
Like,
you some good faith here. I'm giving you some good faith. I'm just
not like
telling you
it's not
that when
I
we
mean,
universalize these things, when you say that you would appeal to universal ethics,
Mhm.
but those universal ethics, you would still appeal to them absent Christ, right?
Yeah, I have no idea. I've grown up in a Western civilization. Jesus is the most influential person in all of history.
True.
So yeah, because of Jesus, yeah, he's whether I call myself a Christian or not, like he's influenced the world more than we're all impacted by Christianity and Jesus in some way.
It's even
So
fair to say that most of our ethics come from Christianity, like it or not.
probably for
It sounds
for good or
reasonable
for
to
ill.
legislate based on that. Then it sounds totally reasonable to me to legislate
Well,
based on the
is-
fact that most of all of the ethics of the United States are formed by Christianity anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would just emphasize like things like Matthew 25 and Matthew 5, and maybe we would pick and choose what is most important to us and how we legislate. But again,
And then if we
If
pick and
one's-
choose what's most important to us and how we legislate, the objection goes out the window, right? We're doing the same thing you're doing.
yeah, I'm sure,
Yeah.
and we're at an impasse. And
No, that's not an impasse. It's agreement.
It is.
The agreement is that if Christian nationalists take control because they're voted into office, that's good. That's what they're supposed to do because that's what you're going to do.
If you want to live in the Handmaid's Tale, I'm good without that. But if that's your bag, man, shit,
Yeah.
you'd probably be a commander.
Fuck. Me? No.
Yeah, you'd be Commander Wilson. Let's be
No,
real.
there's no commander, nothing. I'm talking about using the legislative powers which already exist to enforce the will democratically of the anti-gay homosexual agenda. You actually can't make an objection to that because that's exactly what you're doing in reverse.
And you can't make an objection to mine.
I don't need to. I'm telling you exactly what I'm going to do. We're going to try to get people in power to immediately reverse all of that because you have no objection to it.
And we're going to fight back, and you will have no objection to it other than it's your preference also.
Well, if that's the case, then really what I said at the very beginning of the debate, that it's just a rush for power, we're finally in agreement on.
Sure, I guess. Like, yeah, okay, it's a rush for power.
And I want my
you're-
side to get it,
and
not yours.
And you want to legislate against queer people.
And you want to legislate for them.
And I want to not legislate against straight people.
Whatever that means. You want to, you
Right.
do though. You just want to uproot their entire society and social norms and everything else.
Oh yeah.
but-
Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah, I definitely want. I don't want you to be married anymore, Andrew. We're not going to call it marriage. We're going to get rid of all you straight marriage. No more straight sex. All the shit.
Well, how does it not destroy the very institutions that you're talking about that you're trying to subvert when you say, okay, but now polyamory is fine? You say, no,
Because-
not polygamy, but you can't actually give an argument. You're just like, because maybe it messes things up a little worse than the other things mess shit up. I don't even know what the argument was there.
Well, it wasn't that. I mentioned power dynamics that are unhealthy and blah blah blah.
That's
but
that's out of all the things you progressives say, that's got to be the worst. Every fucking relationship on planet Earth has lopsided power dynamics. All of them, every single one of them. There's not a single relationship I've ever seen in my entire existence that had completely on par power dynamics, and you haven't ever seen one either. It's never happened.
But you could have a balanced power dynamic that can not be oppressing other people.
Well, how would it be oppressive for one man to marry 30 women? Are you saying the women would be oppressing him?
I'm saying if there's like a religious structure that says this is how it must be. That's what polygamy societies are. It's like this is the structure.
You can have polygamy without religion. What are you talking about?
Well, that's how they're generally structured.
Yeah, but if they're not structured that way, what would the objection be?
Well, then I guess I'd call it polyamory. Like,
well, why can't they get married by the state though?
Why not? They can.
They can. Exactly. So you're talking about radical change of the system. Right now, that's illegal, right?
It's not going to affect your marriage. You can still.
Oh my God, no! It's okay. I'm not talking about the effect of my marriage. You're right. It's not going to affect my marriage, but it's going to affect the society in which I live. And it's going to create radical change and destabilization inside of it. And I think that that's generally a bad thing, and people don't like it, which is why we're in a rush to power to make sure that you guys don't have none, because that's exactly what you want to do. Which is how we got the transgender shit. We got it from you fuckers. You guys gave it to us. We didn't give it to you.
Yeah, So when we abolished slavery, that radically changed the country. Was that a good or bad thing?
That was good.
Oh, that one was good. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Okay, but this was bad.
That was good.
This upheaval would be bad. That one would be good because gay people are gross.
So first of all, if the social norms had been followed correctly for abolition, we wouldn't have ended up with a civil war that killed more than any other war in history ever did, right? There was norms there for gradual abolition of evil, and nobody's saying that you can't gradually abolish evil. Yes, it created radical social upheaval. That's true. But that was radical social upheaval that was necessary to unenslave an entire population of people. I think we would both agree is a plague on humanity. The problem comes in when you say there's an infinitesimal amount of people who they can live like they're married, they can get all sorts of social contracts just like they're married, but they just have to have the fucking title. And if they can't, they're going to make sure that all of the great social cohesion that we get from this thing gets flipped on its head. Now, polygamy is fine. You get married. Polygyny, that's okay. Whatever you want to do, man. Wherever you want to do it, it's fine. No big deal. Who cares if it ruins the entire cultural fabric of the very things that you care the most about? Who cares if it gives us trans kids? Who cares if it gets like I care, man? I still have to live here, bro.
I just don't believe you that would cause such great societal upheaval.
Then explain the trans phenomenon.
Again, that's not my lane.
Yeah, well, but it caused great societal upheaval for no fucking good reason anybody has ever explained to me. Nobody's ever been able to explain to me why it is that we needed to have a massive fight in the United States over whether or not you could change the sex of a 10-year-old. That came exclusively from the fact that there was an infrastructure built by the LGBTQ who put these people front and center as spokesmen, and they had the infrastructure to back them. And it's like, you guys gave us that shit, and now you're promising this won't cause social upheaval, though. It's like you already did your job. You already caused tons of it. Again, and it wasn't good. It wasn't good, man.
It's just like, I mean, my gosh, I think of all the trans people I know, and I'm like, they did not, their existence does not cause societal upheaval. My life is
legislatively, except we never had to talk about it for 7 years straight. It was mad. It was.
I never had food taken out of my mouth.
We had to redefine the DSM.
I'm going to interrupt you.
We had to redefine the DSM. We had to redefine all of these social norms, which happened. We had to talk about whether or not we were going to mutilate fucking children. Like, that shit was crazy. It was fucking crazy. And it caused all kinds of massive social upheaval for no good fucking reason. And it's like, don't pretend to me now that, our new agenda is just against Christians. That's just us being more Christ-like. It's like, no, that's radical change in society designed for maximum upheaval. So you guys get your fucking way, right? That's what's going on. Anyway, go ahead.
I can talk now. Thanks. I never had a trans person take food out of my mouth. I never had a trans person take my job. I've never had a trans person take money out of my account. The fact that
Christians did that.
But Christians?
What Christians took food out of your mouth, took money out of your account?
It's just a turn. It's like a turn of phrase, man. It's like in other words, my life has never been negatively affected by trans people. I've had death threats from Christians. Yeah, I know where I can find you. I know where I can get your address, and I'm going to show up. I've had death threats.
I've had death threats from leftists. What's your point?
Great, and they were wrong.
And I bet you I've had a lot more death threats from leftists than you have from Christians.
Well, you're way more popular than me on the internet. I'm a farmer. I spend time farming and publishing books, man. Like, I'm not on the internet. I'm on the internet, but I don't have a YouTube channel.
I get what you're saying. That makes sense. It makes sense what you're saying. I'm just telling you, again, every criticism tossed is the same criticism back.
Exactly. And around we go circularly. And so again, we're not going to agree here. But at the end of the day, it really does come down to preference. Like, you prefer not to include them in your church, and I prefer. And so we'll be at an impasse, and cheers to that. I guess we can move on to the Q&A. Like,
I agree.
You know?
With that, we'll move on to the Q&A. As you can see at the bottom right of your screen, folks, it's going to be amazing. DebateCon 8, July 25th in Dallas, Texas. Andrew Wilson versus Dinesh D'Souza. Rachel Wilson will be taking on Not So Erudite. It's going to be mind-blowing, folks. I'm telling you, we expect it to sell out. Get your tickets now. With that, we're going to jump into it, and the tickets are linked in the description box. First question coming in from, do appreciate it. We're going to try to move fast as we've got a pretty good amount, but I think from here we can guarantee that we'll get through your questions if they've been submitted already. Jordan Lofgren says, Matthew, is the Bible the basis for Christianity? Were there Christians before there was a Bible?
Yeah, there were definitely Christians before there was a Bible.
And then the first question was,
is the Bible the basis for my Christianity?
Yeah.
I would ask which Bible, but no. I mean, it testifies to the basis of Christianity, but it's like saying is the menu the meal? No, I would say.
So what do you appeal to ultimately for the authority for Christianity? What is the appeal? If it's not the Bible,
I mentioned it. I mentioned the Wesleyan quadrilateral. So I try to have some sort of, those, like, I don't remember what kind of graph they are, but there's a point in the middle, and you could skew it in these different directions. Reason, scripture, tradition, and firsthand personal experience.
Reason, scripture, tradition. What traditions are backing up LGBTQ?
Currently, the UCC.
No, the early Christians.
Oh, the early Christians. I think that would have kind of been an anachronistic question.
What does that mean?
Anachronism? What does an anachronism mean?
No, what makes it an anachronistic question?
That you're applying modern terms to ancient. I mean, to ancient people.
Well, no, that's you're engaging in the fallacy again. You already agreed that when we say homosexual for the purpose of this, we're talking about same-sex relationships. They definitely had concepts of same-sex relationships, and when early Christians were around, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And that was universal. That was in Japan. That was in China. That was all over. I mean, the evidence of that and how different cultures dealt with it is overwhelming. So what is the backing evidence that you would look to from tradition for early Christians being accepting of homosexuality?
If tradition is a key. It's a key. I think I don't know if there is any. I think there is some art depicting some Christian art depicting gay ceremonies and marriages, but I have to check on that. I don't recall what century those would have been from. They're not like the authority. Maybe they got shit wrong. I do believe that Paul actually kind of lost the arguments that he had against the Judaizers, and so I think Paul
was not a phenomenal debater. He had all kinds of issues when it came to Greek philosophers and Greek philosophy in general. Many early Christians did. In fact, I would say Thomas Aquinas was his kind of great commission ultimately was to try to make refutations against old Greek philosophy that had carried over in other philosophy as well. I don't think that Paul was a particularly good. In fact, he was known as not being a great public speaker ultimately.
And I'm certain
crude. He was crude.
I'm certain Paul was crude. I agree with that. I think we would read Paul certainly different. I take the apocalyptic approach in the vein of Douglas Campbell, Chris Tilling, J. Louis Martin, Lucy Pepiot. And so I'm sure we would.
What early gay art are you talking about from early?
I don't know. I'd have to look. I honestly
don't think
know.
you're banking on much in the way of traditions here, because Christianity,
No,
even
not,
from the early era, was very, very anti-homosexual, starting with Paul.
Well, they were, and I think they were wrong. And I think you can make the case that they were Tertullian was certainly anti-woman, and I would definitely disagree with him on that. So,
well, no, they weren't anti-woman. They were patriarchists. It's a patriarchal religion, right?
In some ways, sure, yeah.
Well, in all ways, it's patriarchal. I mean, even marriage within the Christian sense is the man is taking the Christ head. He's the symbolism of the Christ head. And the woman is the symbolism of the body of the church, right? The body of the church submits to Christ. Christ doesn't submit to the church. It's the other way around. That's what the entire symbolism of Christian marriage is.
Yeah, sure.
So it's patriarchal definitionally.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think Christendom. Do
you want to remove the patriarchal aspects of it too?
In the way that you probably interpret it as.
Like what?
Do you think that women can be pastors in a church?
No, neither did Paul.
Okay, yeah, then he's wrong. Then I'd go back to what Brandon said.
Can you name a single apostle Jesus Christ had who was a woman?
I believe that some scholars have made the case that Mary Magdalene, the apostle to the apostles, was written.
No, Mary Magdalene was not an apostle. Which scholar made the claim?
Let me find it.
Yeah, find it.
I believe it's Libby Schrader.
Then we have to go to the next question.
Because no credible scholar has ever made such a claim.
Oh, Libby Schrader is a credible scholar.
No, nobody who's going to claim that Mary Magdalene was an apostle of Jesus Christ is a credible scholar. And why do I have a feeling does this happen to be a feminist revisionist scholar? I wonder. What's the name?
Libby Schrader. From Duke
can
University.
You spell it?
It's Elizabeth Schrader.
Oh, Elizabeth Schrader. Okay. Let's take a look here and see if Elizabeth Schrader happens to be a feminist. What'd you say? Libson University?
Duke.
Oh, Duke University.
Oh, so we're gonna definitely discredit her because she's a feminist.
Is she a feminist?
I have no idea.
We do have so many more questions that people have asked.
Okay,
this one. Phil F716 says, yes, homosexuals should be attending church. As Jesus said, it's the sick who need a doctor. The problem is with the quote-unquote priests and pastors affirming the behavior that is blatantly sinful, period.
Okay. Yawn. Is that to me? Is that a statement or a question?
Doesn't always end with a question mark, but you're welcome to respond to it.
Okay. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. I don't see it as a sin.
Even Lord says, why should the debated behavior be normalized when it has damaging effects on society in both the psychological and biological? Why include the church?
Andrew, don't you discredit psychology? I don't know.
Generally, I consider it to be a soft science. Okay. There's some things that might be interesting that you can glean from some of the scientific methods which are employed by psychologists, but psychology itself does not employ the scientific method. And so there's much more to it which is intuitive than not intuitive. Well, here, you think that they do. Okay, well, here, let's just pretend for a second that you're a psychologist. How would you scientifically diagnose mental illness in me if you couldn't find any physical irregularities?
How would you diagnose someone with mental illness if they find the male anus attractive?
Yeah, can you answer my question before you ask one?
Sure.
And then I'll answer yours.
Okay, can you repeat it one more time? Sorry.
Yeah, how would you, as a psychologist, if you could find no physical irregularities with me, diagnose me with mental illness scientifically?
I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
Just pretend for a second, any methodology you can think of for how it could be that you could scientifically diagnose me as being mentally ill if you could find no physical irregularities.
So I'll reach out to some psychologists and answer that for you. And if you give me your email, I'll send it to you, what they say.
Well, let me save you a lot of headache There's
No, I know I want to do that. I'd like to do that if you
yeah,
don't
but I'm
mind.
just going to let you know there's no disease process. And because
Okay.
there's no disease process, the only thing that you can do is look for behavioral irregularities. But what are you pointing at then? You're pointing to the fact that you think that there's behavioral norms.
Okay.
And so if that's the case, you think there's behavioral norms, then all you're doing is intuiting this out, right? You're not actually using any sort of scientific methodology for this because there's no disease process. And in medical science, there is a disease process. There's actually a scientific, rigorous medical process you go through to test for staph, to test for infection, to test for disease.
Okay. So can you answer my question now?
What is the question?
How do you say that a man attracted to another man's anus has mental illness?
Because what you would be doing if it is the case that you could only look at irregularities, behavioral irregularities as being the signs of mentally ill, and you say that this is an infinitesimal amount of the male population who does this, that would be a massive irregularity. Therefore, that would be how we would diagnose mental illness to begin with. How do you know that somebody's suffering from gender dysphoria? Because they say, hey, man, I don't feel like I should have this body or whatever it is. Okay, so if they're saying that to you, the only reason you know that that's mentally not correct is because you're pointing at all of the other portion of society that doesn't think that. If everybody in society thought that, then I suppose the person who didn't, you would consider that person mentally ill.
We've got to go to
I
the
don't
next
know
one.
if
I hate to do it, but just because if you guys ask each other questions during the Q&A, then the audience's
Sure.
questions may not get read.
Yeah.
Even Lord, we got that one. Bless My Vibe Code says Matthew looks like the kind of guy. Let's see. BC Penniman says, question for Matt. If you had undeniable proof that the Christian God was opposed to LGBT, would your stance align with his, or would
Wait,
you rebel? Thanks.
sorry, I'm confused. You stopped in mid-sentence, I think. You said Matthew looks like the kind of guy, and
That's a
then was that a
separate.
different?
Don't worry about that
Oh,
one. That's a separate one. This one
oh, you
was
threw me off. Oh, I no, I want to hear it. Can you say it?
no. If you had undeniable proof that the Christian God was
Oh.
opposed to LGBT, would your stance align with his, or would you rebel?
The Christian God? So just like God? Would I would I rebel? I would have some questions for him. I mean, is the uh is the innate sexual attraction that I had and still have for men something that you gave me, God, or was that just to like fuck with me so I make sure that I don't engage in that, but you just put it there? It's kind of like the forbidden fruit. There's a lot of I have said some pretty wild things about like if God is truly like some of the fundamentalists say, then I'll have some harsh words for that God, for sure.
This one from Winchester's Gaming Lounge says, Matthew, have you ever experimented with, let me know if I say this wrong,
Ayahuasca,
ayahuasca or other psychedelics?
mushrooms. Yeah, it's not ayahuasca. That sounds a little bit too intense for me.
You know what's really funny here? I've just been digging this up on this chick, Elizabeth Schrader. I can't actually find her making the claim anywhere that Mary Magdalene was an actual apostle of Christ, only that she was a more pinnacle figure than we had been led to believe, but not actually an apostle. Where did you hear that claim?
Oh, I'd have to dig back to a long time ago episode on my podcast with her. I can email you that if you want. I can figure that out for you.
Okay.
This one from Jordan Lochran says, Matthew, have you ever gotten into gematria?
Have I ever gotten into what?
Gematria.
Gematria. Like, is that the numerology with Hebrew?
Yeah.
Like, only when it was applied to when only to the people who had this like what dispensationalist eschatology where they're arguing for like modern figures to be Nero, and I'm like, well, from what I understand, Hebrew numerology, you add up Nero Caesar and it gets 666. That's the extent of my understanding of that. So obviously the figure in Revelation is not about Barack Obama or some future figure. It was about Nero Caesar, and that was coded language to say 66. The number of the beast or whatever, right, is 666, and you add up Nero Caesar in Hebrew and you get 666.
Flavius Athanasius says, taking any point from someone who can't even admit, quote unquote, Christ is God without hesitation, yet claims a modicum of Christianity's virtues and ethics. Where did you, Matthew, study Christianity? The Nala Ray Ministries course?
Well, I was asked if Jesus was God. No one asked me Christ, so I distinguish between Jesus and Christ. But okay, where did I studied? I've been studying under I guess feminist, progressive theologians. The ones who have influenced me: Girard, Douglas Campbell, David Bentley Hart, and Eastern Orthodox, incidentally. Bradley Jersak. I could go on. Thomas Talbot, the philosopher. I'm also a Universalist, so Eric Raton, Protestants, Orthodox, a lot of Roman Catholics. James Allison's been a big influence of mine. Lucy Pepiot.
03 Scumbag says, Matthew, Christianity started in the Middle East and spread to Africa and Greece, non-white majority lands. Do you see how asking Christians to change its views is you using your white authority to change the other cultures?
Oh, I don't want white authority. No, it's a Middle Eastern religion. It's definitely not a religion that was written by people who look like me or to people who look like me.
KS says, Matthew, what is your argument for why the church within its own paradigm should be LGBT inclusive? Sounds like you just don't like your opponent.
Oh, I have no personal issue with I don't like his worldview. I think he's I think I don't like it. What was the first part of the question? Like I just want to be clear. Like I have no personal issue with it's not about my likes of my opponent.
What is your argument?
The question is about whether or not you actually do have an argument for why it is that churches should include openly homosexual men in openly homosexual relationships and marry them if they don't want to.
Yeah, because LGBTQ people are amazing. They're some of the most Christ-like people.
This is from Rachel Wilson, who will be debating Not So Erudite at DebateCon, and it's going to be amazing. Check out the link in the description box. She says, Matthew's argument boils down to, you have to let me follow my temporal passions as a Christian, or it's not fair. That's the opposite of Christianity. None of us get to follow our passions.
Okay.
KS says, should the church empathize with people eaters?
With what?
People eaters. Let's
say
they're already dead.
Cannibals.
Oh, got you.
Let's say they're already dead, so you're not killing them. They're just already dead. Those types of people eaters.
What does that have to do with queer people?
He's asking, is it the case that if it's the case that you should just do whatever you want sexually, if somebody were to,
I never said that.
Well, yeah, you kind of did. So if it's the case, if it's the case that, let's say, somebody dies and wills their dead body to somebody who wants to sleep with it because they really want them to, they leave a forwarded will expressly saying that this is what they want. Is there any problem with that from your view?
I heard you argue this way with Brandon Robertson. Yeah, I don't see. Yes, sex is an exchange of energy between people. Like I never said that people could just do what they want. That's again more straw man. Like I'm not interested in either you or the people.
Yeah, but what's your argument for why they shouldn't do that?
What's my argument?
Yeah,
for why they shouldn't do that?
Yeah,
because it is not a healthy sexual ethic that involves two people exchanging energy together in an open, compassionate, loving way.
So why do they need to do that? They just have a different set of preferences than you do. They want to do that. It was consented to. What's the actual argument here? It seems to confine exactly with the idea
consent.
How?
It's like saying
they're dead.
It's like
they're dead. How could it violate consent? They're dead. And they consented before they died.
Is that how you view consent? Like once you consent to something, you're good forever.
Let me ask you a question. Can you consent to a surgery where they're going to put you under so you can't deny the consent?
Can say it one more time?
Can you have a surgery where they're going to put you to sleep during the surgery so you can't then retract consent, right?
Once you're asleep, you're probably...
So you can pre-consent to things for when you're unconscious or your consciousness is gone. So if that's the case, just explain to me why it would be that if you forwarded a will that said, I really want Bob to have sex with me when I'm dead, why it is that Bob shouldn't do that. Why not?
Why not? Because it's gross.
Oh, well, then that's my argument against homosexuality.
I know it is. That's why you say we stick our dick in feces. That's why you say
Hey,
shit
look,
like that.
look. If it's an argument from it's gross, then I
Hey.
use the same foundational argument. It's gross,
Okay.
therefore,
Okay.
therefore, it
and you
shouldn't be
do,
allowed.
but you do. I'm matching your
Sure.
energy, bro.
Hey,
Like,
look,
you
look,
do.
man. If that's the case, and we're both just on the it's gross, then that seems like I could legislate against it because it's gross and it's fine with you.
You do legislate against it.
This one from
Yeah, but should I legislate against it because it's gross?
No, you shouldn't.
Okay, so should you be legislating against that because it's gross?
Yeah, you're fucking a dead body.
So that's not an argument.
Well, if you want to do it, go for it, man.
Yeah, there you go. Just go for it. I'm not.
Hey, if you want to
that
do
could
it, you
just
keep bringing
I'm
it up.
not arguing that you could just do whatever you want sexually, man, and then you argue that
I'm
you
not
can do
either.
whatever you want sexually.
I'm not either. No, you didn't accept my answer of like it's an exchange of energy. I don't view sex like that. So you're misinterpreting me to say I also say it's gross. That's not the extent of my argument. You just don't accept the
Well, what's
other
the
things
extent
I'm
of your
saying.
argument? That
I
there has to
already
be an
fucking said
exchange of
it.
energy? What does that even
Yes, that's
mean?
I don't know.
There's
man.
still
You
an
should have-
exchange of energy. I'm like, what are you
Not-
talking about?
Not like when not when alive people have sex.
How do
bro.
you know?
Come on. I'm guessing.
How do you know? Yeah, you're guessing. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I am guessing,
Yeah.
aren't you?
So if
Yeah,
that's
I'm
the
taking a
case,
guess.
so if that's the case, bro, like none of those arguments all fall flat. What's the actual reason they shouldn't do it? Absent, you can't say it's gross because then every argument could just be homosexuality is wrong because it's gross. So what? What actually is the entailment? You just say it's the exchange of energies. So if like there's a negative entailment of energies between me having sex with a woman, that should be legislated against or no?
Oh, I don't know. Legislation is a different. You asked me. I'm not saying. I don't. Legislation is a different question than.
Yeah,
what
would you
you're asking my
legislate against
argument.
people fucking dead bodies if it was
Yes.
consented to beforehand?
Yes.
In a
Yes.
okay, why?
Why? Because it violates how I think people should engage sexually with other people. Because
How?
how?
Yeah, there's pre-consent. It's contractual. They want to do it. This guy wants to do it. So what's the problem?
You're such a dork. I'm sorry.
That's not an argument. You're a
I
dork's
know
not an
it's
argument.
I know it's not. Are you really wanting to argue to fuck a dead body?
Yes,
Dude,
I want to check your consistency.
That's hilarious. That's fucking.
I mean, it
hilarious.
is, but it's hilarious on this side more than you think. So just, I would like you to answer in good faith.
I did answer in good faith.
So what is the actual argument?
Sex between people is, I think it's a sacred exchange. You've already strawmanned me in saying everyone can just fuck whoever they want. I never said that. But now you want me to play by the rules again. You don't like to play by the rules. You like to do these subtle digs where I didn't say that shit, and then you want to try to do this. So again,
this is all meta, dude. This is all meta. Can you just answer the question? Like, what is the actual reason?
No, because you're not
should
in
legislate?
good faith. It's not in good faith.
It's not in good faith to ask you a question about your view.
Not at this point, because you strawman the fuck out of me the whole time.
Oh, come on, dude. You can't use, like, you've been using parable and rhetoric yourself, and I'm not complaining about it. So if you can use parable and you can use rhetoric and you can do that shit, you can't complain because I use parable and rhetoric and summarization just like you are. So just actually answer the question I'm asking you. Why would you legislate legally against this thing if there's pre-consent, there's a contractual forwarding, and both of them wanted to do this? What is the actual argument from that? And how is that distinct from LGBTQ people wanting to have a same-sex relationship?
I do not agree with the premise that me giving consent for a surgery and then being put out with a doctor who is held to the Hippocratic Oath to do the surgery for whatever reason I consented to. I do not see that as a strong analogy to then say, well, it's the same as fucking a dead body who allows you to. That's fucking absurd. And that's
not that's just an assertion. You're unconscious for both. Consciousness isn't there for either thing.
Okay. And one's a dead body and one is someone alive.
Yes, that's correct.
And so therefore,
so if it is the case that you can give pre-consent to enter into a state where you're not conscious, and here you can give pre-consent where you're entering into a state where you're not conscious. It's the exact same fucking thing, right? Yeah.
No.
Are you not conscious in both scenarios?
That is the same, but a dead body is not the same as someone who is
Well, yes,
integrated,
that's
for
true. And
instance.
bearded men are not the same as shaven men. I agree with this. And it is the case that women with double D boobs are different than women with A boobs, but it has nothing to do with the fact that we're going to make distinct bra sizes. So when it comes to this, it's like I can make the distinction that one is dead, one is alive, but the lack of consciousness in both seems to be that you can consent to one and not the other. And I don't actually understand why.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry you don't understand.
We
Okay.
have to go through these fast. We have many, many more questions. So we do have to try to set a timer on each one. Zachary
Okay.
Gelpy says if Christians should change their standards to let homosexuals into the fold, and it wouldn't change what Christianity is, then communists should let capitalists their ideology and it would still be communists. I think that's missing some words.
Gay people are already in the fold. I mean, they already are.
Jim Curley says we did solve racism in the 90s.
Oh, good. Congratulations to us. I'm glad we solved it.
Christian F says, Matt, you do not force people to give an
Was
F about you.
Was that a Rodney King reference? I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to correlate what the solving was and all I can think of is the big events for what wasn't it the LA riots and Rodney King and all that was the big 90. Like, what does he mean?
I have no idea.
Now I'm actually confused by his position too.
And OJ. Kristen F says, Matt, you do not force people to give an F about you, weirdo. Stop making gays look creepy. No one has to care about us. Stop. Okay, this apparently is a fellow gay person, and they say nobody has to give an F.
I didn't ask anyone to give an F. I mean, I give an F about him.
Flavius asks.
Okay.
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, you're fine. I'm creepy. That's whatever. All right.
Flavius Athanasius says, are Canada's MAID laws permissible?
Or what?
Are Canada's M as in Margaret, AID laws permissible? Made laws.
What does that mean? Canada? I'm not in Canada. I'm not Canadian.
That I'm not familiar with either. Let me see if I can find that.
Well, I mean, you got that going for you then. At least there's that.
Hey, they're good at hockey.
That's true. I need a beer. Woman, bring me a beer. For the love of God and all that is good. I need a beer.
Jesus Christ.
Cyborg Rooster says, this guy literally owned your argument, Andrew. If not, give a short sentence why he is wrong. ILU.
He owned my argument?
So that's what they say.
Well, I don't understand. My argument was that Christian nationalists should be able to be in charge and legislate against gay marriage, and he said that basically, from his view, that was fine. So I don't know.
No, I said no. My view is that
objection to it.
My objection to it is that we would legislate completely different. That would be my objection. Would be practical. We would. I mean, yeah. So again, yeah.
At the mercy of the same objection.
Both of yeah, but yeah. My premise starting off was that, or well, we got to it. Is that we're both engaging in circular reasoning.
Yeah, but if that's the case, then there's no objection to Christians being in power and legislating. Like, you're not going to, when Christians take power and legislate against the LGBTQ church, you should not actually have a problem with that, right?
Well, of course I have a problem with it.
Well, why though? They're just doing the same thing you're doing in reverse. They're giving the same reasoning too, because I want to.
Yeah, because I want, I want people to thrive. And the gay people I know that are married, that have jobs, that live a life the same way I live with my wife, I want them to have the same benefits and be viewed the same way we view other people. And I'm not going to pick and choose and be like, oh, it's like the animal farm, right? Like all the animals are equal and some are a little more equal. I don't live like that. So yeah, it is my preference, and it's your preference to legislate Christian nationalism.
But there's no way for you to determine that my preference is wrong, though. And so if that's the case, how can you say it's wrong for me to legislate against?
No, I can definitely say it's wrong because
because
the queer people who your view harms report that.
So what? That wouldn't make it wrong. That's just back to preference again. It's just your
Right,
preference that I don't do that because you think it harms people subjectively.
Yeah, and
So
you
it's
think
just
it doesn't, and you think it doesn't subjectively.
it's just a preference based argument. So
Right,
how can you make an objection when you say it's just based on my preferences? If I say, well, then I'm going to just utilize my preferences the same exact way to do harm, how can you make an objection to that? You're saying I have the exact same moral high ground that you do. Preference.
Yeah.
Why is your preference superior to mine?
Because I'm not an asshole.
Yeah,
No,
so
I am.
nothing, right? Nothing.
Yeah.
What makes it superior?
Because I care about queer people, of which I am one.
Okay.
Yes.
And mine's superior because I don't care about queer people? Like, that's not even an argument, bro.
It's not an argument. So me reporting to you that I'm a queer person, and me reporting to you that my experience in the church, which is very similar, like the views are, it might have been Protestant, but it's very similar to your views on LGBTQ. I am reporting to you that harmed me, that caused me anxiety, anger. I went through it. I accepted myself, and I no longer have those things, and I don't get my value from the church. I get it from God. And you are saying that I don't care about that because
that's the same exact thing back. It's been my experience that homosexuals cause tons of harm in society, and they annoy the shit out of heterosexual people. And heterosexual people are tired of dealing with their bullshit. And heterosexual people report harm from this. And so heterosexual people don't want them to get married. They want them to go live in their own little communities because that's our preference. It's the same fucking shit back to you. So again, why is your preference superior to mine other than because you prefer it?
And it's laughable for straight people to say that. Again, it's back to this.
It's laughable because you don't prefer it.
It's laughable that Christians like you apparently think that you're some sort of victim because you're not allowed to be fucking terrible to LGBTQ people.
Okay, and I think that it's terrible that you want to force Christians to marry LGBTQ people. Why is your preference superior? Just because you say that it is.
I don't want to force.
Okay, so Christians can deny you at the state level from getting married?
Well, no.
No, then you're going to force them to do it with the force of government. What do you mean? Are you gonna force small towns to let gay people move to those small towns if they want to?
How am I forcing Christians to do it? You don't have
let's
to.
Say
you don't have to marry people.
Let's say a town got
together.
Don't
do that job.
Let's say a town got. Well, great. Don't move to the town. Wow, we solved it all, didn't we? Between the two of us. Look at the big brains on these guys.
We're not
all you have to do is not do the thing that I don't want you to do. Great. That's all you have to do too. Wow. We're solving the world's problems here, bro. You don't do the thing I don't want, and I won't do the thing that you don't want, and you don't do the thing that I don't want. Wow, that's fantastic.
The difference is like I'm an actual queer person, and you cannot convince me here that my existence and my being a part of the church has harmed you in any way. That's
why do I need to convince you of that? All I need to do is appeal to my own preference like you are. As long as it's the case that I want to have some big town somewhere right here in the United States that just no gay people are allowed because that's all of our preference, you'll use the force of government to force service. You'll use the force of government to use force in order to make a fucking cake. You'll use the force of government to come in and tell people what's what. And so the thing is like, as long as it's the case that you're willing to use force on preference for harm, then I'm willing to use force on preference for harm too.
I don't know if I ever said that. I think the state by definition violates the non-initiation of force, and so in many instances I don't know if I would personally force a baker to bake a wedding cake for a gay people. I don't know if I would think that. I would rather.
So if towns outlaw gay pride parades, no problem, right?
In a theoretical sense, yeah.
Like right now, if they wanted to, would you support that?
No, I wouldn't support it, but I wouldn't go in there with force and like. I mean, I think people. I mean,
so if San Francisco said, "Wait a second, we don't want to have gay pride parades here anymore," let's just say that happened in this hypothetical. You wouldn't use the force of government to tell them that they're violating the Constitution or the law, and that they need to allow that.
Yeah, sure. In this context, I would do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you would use government force in order to enforce your agenda. And that preference, you consider it to be the least harmful. I would make the same exact argument back and say that these erotic homosexual displays out in public are very harmful to people, and I don't like them. So I'm going to use my own preference because I don't like this shit to utilize government force so that you can't do it. Why is your preference superior to mine?
Well, for one, I never said that I'm for a pride parade that like has like a display of erotic behavior. I think anytime that you see gay people, Christians tend to think it's like some sort of pornographic, erotic, or like they see gay people and they're like, oh, they kissed, and I don't want to see that. But you're fine with straight people kissing. It's just, yeah, it does come down. It does come down to preference. Yeah, it does.
So what makes your preference? One last time, what makes your preference superior? That's all I'm looking for. That without using preference, tell me what makes your preference superior without stating another preference.
Now I have to. Why is it superior? Because it is. Because I listen to gay people.
That's excellent.
Because I listen to queer people. Like,
that's also why my preference is superior, because it is.
Yeah.
We'll go to the next one. Max M says, Matt, what does Romans 1:27 mean?
That's a great question. Are you familiar with the Greek rhetoric of prosopopoia? I think it's doesn't necessarily matter what it means. I'm not a part of like the old McDonald hermeneutic of here verse, there verse. I think Romans 1:18 through 32 is the rhetorical argument of the false teachers that are in Rome at the time that Paul is debating. And I don't think we actually get Paul's theology until we hit Romans 5. So Romans 1 through 4 is a back and forth dialogue, including prosopopoia and diatribe, to show how the false teachers who were hammering people over the head, Gentiles over the head, with all of this legalism and listing all these so-called sins, the point of Romans 1:18 through 32 gets hit with, therefore, in Romans 2:1, you do the same things, you are guilty by your own logic, and you stand condemned because you do all the same shit in this list.
This one coming in from, do appreciate your question. Rachel Wilson strikes again, says same-sex relations are explicitly condemned in the Orthodox Church and have been for all of its history. Just because you have some friends who are trying to subvert it doesn't mean it's accepted. It isn't.
Okay. Yeah, I know it's not. And same with the Catholic Church, right? They don't affirm it. I mean, maybe they're softening, maybe lately. No.
This one from
Francis softened, maybe. That's
like, I know Orthodox give Catholics a lot of shit, but when I look into it, they're mostly pretty based from my view. So
my humble opinion says, if the church is quote unquote responsible for keeping people closeted, is the LGBT quote unquote responsible for the increase of self-unaliving since they have made society more accepting of coming out?
Yeah, I would have to do some research on like the causation of the of why there's increased self-harm. I don't know what terms I can and can't use all the time on YouTube. I think you'd be hard pressed to blame. I mean, blaming the mental health of queer youth on the queer people themselves is that's diabolical.
Holding people responsible for their choices is diabolical.
This one from, do appreciate it. Cyborg Rooster says, Matthew, God is good and forgiving. However, LGBT is an acknowledgement of sin. Jesus will judge us all, one man on woman. He will forgive and bless us, all us sinners.
Okay.
Nazir says, since Matthew is bi, does he think Andrew's cute?
Gross.
Not my then in that case, sure.
This one from J. DeGenesis. Matthew, it's quite telling that you refuse. Why do you guys put in a super chat and it's missing? I think they mean it. It is quite telling that you refuse to admit the slippery slope we have been since the 80s. You won't admit the trans connection. Are you going to deny the PDF connection coming next unless something is done to stop it?
Like I said, opening, I don't understand this insistence on holding people who say like trans issues are out of my lane. We have this like culture which like you have to have a goddamn answer about every little thing. And it's like, yeah, I'm not the authority on I'm not trans. Like, so my obviously the things we study and the things we're interested in are generally the things that affect us personally. That tends to be how it goes. So I'm not going to spend all of my time. Like, go talk to trans scholars. There's trans biblical scholars. Go read. There's trans interpretations of the Bibles. Like, you want to poo-poo it, fine, poo-poo it. But like, there's scholarship around all this. You can go talk to them, those people, and if it's in good faith, you will do the research on actually talking to trans people. Like, I don't get it. But okay, like, I will do more research on that if if you need me to.
Flavius says, I'm a gardener. Is it equivalent to a farmer now? Is that wrong, Matt?
What? What's the point? I mean, I'm a gardener and a farmer, but what?
I'm not exactly sure what it was in reference to earlier in the debate. They said, I'm a
Uh,
gardener. I'm a gardener is equivalent to a farmer now.
is a gardener equivalent to a farmer now? I mean, it can be. They're not mutually exclusive.
Lord Sneak says, Matt, is your opinion? These guys are trolling me. What is going? Matt, what is your opinion on the Apostle Paul and women teaching in the congregation?
I think a lot of the pseudo-epigraphic writings are not even from Paul, like the pastoral epistles. I mean, the scholarship is split on I think there's 7 undisputed letters and a few that are disputed. I think there are times when I think there was in the early church, there were people that were teaching a false gospel, and in some of the churches it happened to be women. And he basically told those women, if it's Paul or if it's pseudo Paul, to sit down and shut up. But that's not I don't universalize a letter that Paul wrote.
That's not what happened. That's not what happened. What happened was they were dealing with the cult of Artemis,
right?
Which was a fertility. That was a fertility cult, which was run by priestesses, and they were trying to subvert the church by acting as though they were patrons, and when they were actually going in there to disrupt services. And you are correct in the sense that they were there to teach something which was false. But it was not that these women were put in positions of authority beforehand and then decried for their faux authority. It's the case that it was men who were in authority under the patriarchy, and this cult was trying to infiltrate it. And Paul made a universalist claim. He does not suffer women to teach in any church because of this reason, because priestesses were doing subversion not just there, but in other places as well. And so that's what was actually going on there.
Is it Paul? What letter is this? 2 Timothy?
Second Timothy, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't write 2 Timothy. There's no, I don't, do scholars say that
that was, that those were letters from Paul's. Yes. I don't know what you're talking about there.
Well, scholarship does not, I don't think, affirm that 2 Timothy is, no, that's a disputed letter. I think most scholars do not think that 2 Timothy was written by Paul.
Demonstrate that.
I'm not a scholar. I'm not a biblical scholar.
Why would you make the claim?
Because that's what's the claim is that scholars dispute the letters. Do you disagree with that?
No, that wasn't your claim. Your claim was that most scholars do.
Most scholars do? I think so, right? Most scholars.
Well, let's find out.
I follow. I don't know.
Most scholars you follow?
Do we have to count them all up? I mean, how many scholars are there?
Well, mainstream scholars? I don't. It's your claim, dude.
Yeah. Okay. So the people that I find authoritative in scholarship don't.
Who happen to agree with you?
Yeah, isn't that
the majority?
Isn't that the
majority of mainstream scholars? Let's do that.
Isn't that how you do it?
I don't think it is. No. How? So wouldn't you say that you would be looking for the majority of mainstream scholars here?
Well, what is mainstream?
Accepted by their peers.
Here it is. The majority of critical and mainstream New Testament scholars do not believe the Apostle Paul wrote 2 Timothy along with 1 Timothy and Titus. However, several conservative, evangelical, and traditional scholars strongly argue for Pauline scholarship.
What's your source for this?
Let's see.
You chat GPT'd it, didn't you?
No, I don't. I hate chat GPT.
Okay, then what is your source?
No, I'm trying. I'm looking for it.
You don't know what your source is that you just read to me. That's bizarre.
Well, no, that was Wikipedia.
Oh, it was Wikipedia. Okay.
But Wikipedia can be good as long as you get to the citations. You got to look though. There's like 50 citations on this page.
All right, dude.
What do you think Wikipedia is not valid if it has citations that you can then go click on?
Wikipedia can be edited by anybody, as you know.
Exactly. That's why
And
I'm finding
so
the
you don't
citations.
use that as well, then you should have used the evidence of somebody who was not Wikipedia, or somebody who you actually consider to be an authority who's citing evidence, not something which can just be edited.
Okay, I believe Bruce Metzger does not affirm Pauline scholarship. Douglas Campbell does not affirm Pauline scholarship or Pauline authorship for Second Timothy. J. Louis Martin does not. Chris Tilling does not. Those are the Pauline scholars that I am most familiar with. There's my and framing Paul would be Douglas Campbell's And the Deliverance of God. J. Louis Martin's Yale Anchor Bible series on Galatians. Lucy Pepiot's Women in Worship in Corinth. If you want the citations, there you go.
This one from, do appreciate your question. Cyborg Rooster says, Andrew, a house divided cannot stand. Orthodox Church, which branched from the schism, divided against themselves.
What?
I don't know. Is this a new word I've never seen? It's divided, but with a D-E. No. That's pretty much what they
He's talking
said.
about the schism between Catholics and Orthodox, because
I
that was
think
based mostly around the
so.
filioque.
I think this one
I
from, I think that's what they were saying. Yes. Yes, it was. FPV Flight 4214. How is it loving to injure your partner during fornication? I think they mean about the collapsed butthole there, buddy.
What?
Never mind. Stinky Paradox says Paul forbidding women from speaking culminated in the Eastern and Western Church sourcing castrati for
the castrati.
Castrati, thank you. About 1600 years altogether. How can one ensure these practices don't return?
Through traditionalism. That would be how you would do it, especially when you're talking about the castrati and other things. So most of these functions were abhorrent to the Christian church. Now the castrati is interesting because, well, that's its whole thing. So I'm not even going to get into it. Are you aware of what happened with the castrati?
No.
Okay. I don't recommend that deep dive.
Stinky Paradox says Paul. They got that. Daniel McCoy says, Matthew, if you are a Christian, how do you argue against when the Bible states man shall not lay with man? Have you not read the chapters that explain Sodom and Gomorrah?
Oh shit, I forgot about that passage. Yeah, I've got a quote here from a scholar. If you wouldn't mind reading it, or if you don't mind if I read it.
Sure.
I gotta find it though. Shit, give me just 1 second. So this is Leviticus 20:13, right?
Yeah.
Damn it, where the fuck did I put this? It's a lengthy quote from Dr. Mark Stone. There it is. He says, this was in a personal exchange. The only two explicit prescriptions against homosexual behavior are found in Leviticus 18:22 and 20:13. I think he's talking about the Old Testament, maybe. And they're not nearly as far-reaching as many have supposed. The two texts condemn, quote, lying with a male as with a woman. Leviticus 23:13 specifically forbids a male ish have sex with a male zakar. This is curious, as the two words both mean generic male. Why use the different vocabulary? The best way to understand this curious shift of vocabulary is to read it in the broader context. This also applies to 18:22. Essentially, the use of zakar is to clarify that all, quote, male versions of sexual abominations enumerated in the previous and likely forthcoming verses are also prescribed. Ergo, the homosexual prohibition applies to sex with father, son, and brother, and to grandfather, grandson, uncle, nephew, and stepfather, stepson, but, and this is the crucial bit, not to male-male sexual intercourse in general. To make such a claim is blatant eisegesis, not to mention grossly anachronistic. This applies mutatis mutandis to female as well. So that is what he wrote to me.
Interesting. So why did early Christians ban it?
I don't know, because they probably thought it was gross. No, I mean, why did they ban it? Well, I mean, like they had different views on sex. Paul said not to even get married. Why do we get married?
Yeah, but how were they
Um,
confirming things? They were confirming things at the time with the Septuagint and the Old Testament, including Leviticus. And so when they were laying down their laws in Acts, when they said you need to follow the sexual moral code, the reason they were anti-homosexual is because they definitely, and this is not nearly as far removed, right, as we are from that text, they seem to have the interpretation that same sex was not something which was okay. Same
Yeah,
sex activity,
yeah.
period, right?
Yeah, yeah. I would just, I mean, I guess I would say they were wrong. They just like they were wrong on some other shit. Like I don't have the infallibility of the church view of something like they couldn't have got shit wrong. I mean, they interpreted it a certain way, and I'm not a Hebrew speaker. So I'm again, it's you're gonna go to scholarship and you're not just gonna be able to read English words in the Bible, like and think that you have the full uh interpretation in the same way that it's said in Hebrew. So that's why this kind of stuff is important. I mean,
As a Christian, real quick, real as quick as I can. Do you believe in teleology?
yeah, I mean, teleology, right? Like the telos, the
Yeah, the
end,
purpose, you could
the
say. Yeah.
meaning.
Why do you think? Why?
Um,
Just like simple question. Why do you think that God made Adam and Eve?
why did God? Are you
And
saying
why,
as like actual like
if that's
I
not the
don't I don't
purpose, if that's not the purpose, why not just give him another man?
well, I certainly read that as a mythology. I don't believe like God literally made two. I mean, it's a myth. It's a subversive myth against the Babylonian and Enuma Elish. It's a subversive myth against the Epic of Gilgamesh.
So Jesus is not indeed actually God, from your view, because there
Wow,
is
that's elite.
no.
That's quite elite.
Well, it can't be because the entirety of Jesus's coming is foretold throughout the entirety of the Old Testament. If it's the case that you reject God in the Old Testament and say that he didn't exist, how do we get to Jesus exactly?
I don't know if I believe that the whole the whole Old Testament is about the coming of Jesus. I think
Yeah, it's
we
all
definitely
prophets. It's all prophets
we
who are
read
heralding the coming of Christ.
we definitely read that back into the picture. That I don't think that's the case. Like we take Jesus and then like re-import him back into
Well, did
Hebrew
Jesus
stories. Like
believe in that God? Did Jesus believe that God made Adam and Eve?
well, I mean, did make him maybe he did.
Well,
Yeah, do you,
if Jesus believed that, then do you think that Jesus was wrong?
Jesus probably also believed in a type of polytheism.
Okay, maybe,
That
but do you believe that Jesus was wrong about his
uh,
belief that God made Adam and Eve?
I don't think he would be wrong, but I think he would be wrong
Well,
about.
then
I
how
mean,
can he
like
be, well, how can he be right if it's a mythology? That makes no sense.
well, a mythology steers us to the true harbor, as Tolkien says. I don't think mythology equals wrong.
Well, that's not what Tolkien meant by that. Tolkien was trying to create a modern mythos for people because he thought that American culture didn't really have a good one, and
Yeah,
that he didn't think that English culture. He thought that it had lost a lot of like the Viking sagas and things like that. So I
okay.
agree with Tolkien in this sense. But here's the thing that's interesting, right? It's like you didn't actually answer the question. If Jesus believed in Adam and Eve, right? And he did because he said, as it was in the beginning, when he's referencing man and woman, right? Can you tell me real quick, was he wrong?
It depends on what you believe. Like, did he believe that literal human beings? I don't know. I don't know it. Like, or is it are they archetypes that give us a truth? Like, would he be wrong if, because ancient Jewish people were henotheist or polytheist that believed that the gods, the Elohim, died and that their God, they died like mortal men, and that's how they became monotheists. Do we believe that's how it went? Jesus probably did because he was Jewish. Do we think he was wrong about that, or has there always been just one God? I don't have
I'm
They would've
asking
be-
you if he
We have to go
believed
to the next
that.
question
Did he
soon.
hold a false belief or not?
It depends on what his belief of them were.
If
They could
it
be
was the case that he believed it, did he hold a false belief or not?
if it was the case that they believed that God literally made two people and plopped them on the earth first,
Yes.
I would say yes, that he was wrong about that.
Okay, so God can be wrong. All right.
Yeah, if Jesus,
This one from
do you think Jesus knows how to drive an F-250? Would he be wrong about how to shift and drive a stick?
I hate to do this,
Probably.
but guys, we just have so many
All right.
questions from folks that
All
are
right,
still
all right.
waiting for their question to be asked. Andrew Thrasher says, "Good evening, MDD, former senior airman Andrew Thrasher here. Matthew is the type of, let's see, stop the indoctrination of our children. Degen Matthew. All right. Daniel McCoy says, you got a
What?
fan, Matthew. Matthew, they say, Matthew, if you're a Christian, how do you argue against when the Bible states man shall not lay with man? We got that. Sorry about that. PS2 Chipper says, did Matthew ever have a believer's baptism?
I was baptized when I was 9.
Rachel Wilson says, Matthew's coy giggle and bashful banter makes me think he wants to exchange energy with Andrew. This one from
Sure. If saying that makes Andrew feel uncomfortable, I'm cool. That doesn't make me uncomfortable. That's not like that kind of shit is not like a slur to me. That shit's hilarious. Like whatever.
Yeah,
that's no different than like you're gay, bro. Okay,
we
good
don't
one.
have to analyze it. It's okay. Tubian323 says, I'll answer Andrew's question. Having sex with a dead body is wrong because a corpse can't consent.
I said
then
that.
how can you consent to go into surgery? You're still going to lose consciousness. It's the same shit.
Because I'm not a corpse.
Yeah, I understand. Oh, you're not. Oh, you're not. You're not a corpse. I wasn't aware of that. I didn't know that.
Okay.
Corpse can't consent. Unconscious person can't consent. Unconscious person can't retract consent. And corpse can't retract consent. So for all intents and purposes, your consciousness gone. It's gone.
Yeah, for a time being. Hopefully you wake up.
Do appreciate your big, beautiful question. KS says, my question wasn't about the already dead. Matt, if people should be empathized with for their desires and urges, and they want to consume live human flesh, is that okay?
But like a what is it from The Office where Dwight invents the slider that you can eat without killing the horse? I mean, that's stupid. I'm sorry, that's silly. Live human flesh. You want to eat my arm or something?
That's what they're saying, yes.
What does that have to do with anything?
I think they're saying, why is it wrong? Like, what's your justification for drawing the line there?
Why eating human flesh is wrong? Well, I guess in some contexts it's not. I don't judge the Donner Party for the shit that why is it wrong? Contextually, I don't.
Toasted says,
sometimes you just got to eat a fucking person, you know.
I'm not gonna hate. I mean, I'm not. I would.
You know how it goes. You know, sometimes you just like, look, I'm hungry and you look fucking delicious, bro. I mean, like, what are you gonna do?
Okay.
It's how it be.
This one from, by the way, that just reminds me, but I'll remember to say it later. Toasted says, what's Matt's view on abortion? Also, why is he not Muslim?
Am I not Muslim?
Yeah, why aren't you? And also, what's your view on abortion while we're at it?
Well, I mean, is this going to lead us down like another 3 hours? Because I'm getting hungry.
No. We're wrapping it up, bro.
Depends on how long your answer is.
My view on abortion is very. Take everything I say with a grain of salt because I am not a woman. I think that is a choice that women predominantly should make with their doctor and their God.
And why aren't you a Muslim?
Why am I not a Muslim? Because I don't believe in the tenets of Islam, I guess, on all of them, or enough of them to call myself a Muslim. I read Sufi literature, if that helps.
This one from Reverend Russ says, Matthew, please read and reconcile 1 Corinthians 6, 9 through 10. So for those of you who don't know, it's one of the common New Testament verses where Paul, according to some, or maybe more traditional interpretation, would be saying that men having sex with men is not okay. Also, by which hermeneutical context ought Scripture be interpreted by? They say no using Google. So what's your response to the classic 1 Corinthians 6:9, Matthew?
I would say read Women in Worship in Corinth by Lucy Pepiot to show the rhetorical arguments Paul uses there in the same way that Douglas Campbell shows that he uses those rhetorical arguments in Romans. What was the second? I'm not using Google. What was the second question? Why can't you use Google?
That was basically it. They just didn't want you to cheat and use Google.
Cheat? That's not cheating. Researching shit is not cheating. We're on the spot here. Come on.
That's true. I mean, I think that it's fair if it's the case.
Fair.
If it's the case that you pull up research for the purpose of fact checking and things like that, not only is that fair, the only time I think that it's unfair to appeal to, is if you're actually searching Google or AI to make your arguments. I think that that's fucking cheating for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You got it. That's actually it for our questions, folks. As I mentioned, DebateCon 8 is going to be amazing. Check out the link in the description box. It'll also be pinned in the comments. And then, if you live in Texas or Florida, join an in-person group theology debate. There's a link in the description box where you can sign up for that. Sign up below for that group theology debate that'll be in person in Dallas or Orlando. Linked below. With that, I want to say, gentlemen, thank you. It was a tremendous debate, a big, beautiful debate. It's been a pleasure to have you, Matthew and Andrew.
All right. Thanks, James. Have a good night.
Thank you.
With that, stick around, folks. I'll be back in just a moment.
All right, so we're out of here.
Amazing. Thanks so much for coming by, folks. It was a big, beautiful debate indeed. Want to say we are very excited about the future. We are very excited for DebateCon. Debates are a special thing. The reason is it's one-on-one. It is high pressure. Let me tell you, I am very excited about DebateCon. It is coming faster than you think. It's really only about 3.5 weeks. You guys, I really am, no joke, not exaggerating. It's not a sales thing of like, oh, you got to move now, put the pressure on. I'm just being honest. It's almost certainly going to sell out. We're basically having to rent chairs because the venue won't have enough chairs. And we can only fit so many in though, because kind of naturally the venue usually has enough chairs. You could say the number of chairs fit the space in the room they have, right? And so, yeah, we're getting there where grab your ticket now. Also, you might as well buy it now because you might as well get your flights now. If you are flying out to DebateCon, don't forget to book your flights soon. Your flights are going to go up pretty quick in the next couple of weeks because it is, like I said, only about 3.5 weeks until DebateCon. But I am very excited, my dear friends. You see, a debate is special. It isn't where you can hide behind your keyboard like on X and you have plenty of time to think of a response. It isn't a panel where the pressure is dispersed across 4 other debaters or 20 other debaters. This is one-on-one, toe-to-toe. All of the pressure is on one person defending their position in front of hundreds of people, as we'll have a live and in-person audience. We don't play favorites. We don't have modern day debate all-stars. It's a neutral platform. We let the chips fall where they may. We're very excited about this, folks. We're doing something different here. These conferences have been a huge success, and I got to tell you, it's all because of the debaters. I would say basically, this isn't like a modern day debate event, it's a debaters event. They make this event. I'm like the smallest little piece just sending emails to people, but the debaters make this awesome. And you make it awesome too by being there. Come out, meet people that are like you who love debates, meet the speakers. Check out the link right now. You can see the full schedule. We're gathering a group of remarkable people to do something bigger than any one of us could do on our own. This is going to be huge. I'm talking about 2 full days of thunderous debates, 1 day of political debates, 1 day of religion debates. You don't want to miss it. It is going to melt faces. So get your tickets, and we will see you at DebateCon 8 in Dallas, July 25th and 26th. It's going to be huge, folks. We're excited about this. We are looking for, as we do these conferences, the best debaters we can find to come and get it on. It's going to be huge. You don't want to miss it. But I want to say thank you so much for all of our members. So Roger Shoemaker, thanks for being a base member. KG18888, thank you for your support. Thanks for being a base member. Joe3Joe, or I think it's Jojo. The Bearded Doctor, thank you guys for being members as well. Kristen F. 2077, thanks for being a member as well. KS 154, thanks for being a based and red pilled member. We appreciate your guys' support. My dear friends, this conference is going to be huge, but also, for real, if you love theology debates, if you were like, hey, bro, I would love to debate theology, for example, let's say you're like, I would love to debate Protestant or a Reformed person or a Catholic on which denomination is more faithful to the original Christianity of the early church fathers. We are going to have those in-person debates in Dallas and Orlando. There is a link that I have pinned at the top of the chat. It's also in the description box where you can sign up for that. It's important. But yeah, I want to say thank you guys for all of your support. Mandos761, thanks for coming by. Thanks for your support, brother. That means the world. Exotic Spida, thanks for coming by. But yeah, we are excited for this one. You guys, it's going to be awesome. Don't miss it. DebateCon is going to blow your mind. Let me think of anything else that we've got here. We do have channel memberships. Now, if you can't make it to DebateCon, there's only one excuse. If you live in Australia, that's it. If you're in Antarctica, you can make this. But Australia, man, if you are in Australia or Antarctica, I guess, we can let it slide. You can still watch all of DebateCon live. Obviously, it'll be from home. If you become a Final Word channel member, just $14.99, you can watch the entire conference from home. So if you can't make it in person, see these debates unfold live in real time, all 9 debates, because we have 9. So we haven't published it yet or promoted it, I should say. But we will have a 9th debate, which will be on Friday, the night before. It's going to be modern day debate, or I should say, we're going to call it like DebateCon pregame. So we're very excited about this, you guys. We have a lot coming up. It's going to blow your mind. Now, let me look here as I want to peek around, see if there's anything that we missed. Because I actually should get moving because I've just been sitting for so long. My back is really tight. But I want to say thank you guys for your support. Keep sifting out the reasonable from the unreasonable. Thanks for your gift. I appreciate that. Common Circles, thanks so much for that sunshine. That is encouraging. And we are excited about the future. Indeed, the future is bright. No matter how many hurdles are in our way, modern day debate is just going to keep barreling along the tracks, crushing and destroying every hurdle that's in our way. DebateCon is going to be huge, folks. I'm telling you, it is going to shake the foundations of the internet debate world. Be a part of this big event. And if you can't make it, if you're like, bro, but I know, James, it's cool, but I just can't make it. I'm so far away. Hey, don't worry. You can watch it by becoming a Final Word member. Check out our memberships by clicking the join button. Click that right now, and you can see all of our memberships, but also other cool stuff. If you have TikTok, we have TikTok. We should meet there. Follow our TikTok as we have got a goal of getting to 10,000 TikTok followers by the end of the year. I'm going to put that link for the TikTok in the description box. Is for real, it is like a kind deed if you help us get to that 10,000 mark. So for real, even if you're like, yeah, I've got a TikTok, but I don't use it much. Hey, that still helps. Like, still, please do go follow us there because that does still help as we are striving to get to 10,000 followers. So that is pinned at the top of the chat. It's also in the description box. Now, maybe you're like, bro, I'm more of a Discord guy. Well, let me get you the link for Discord. Modern Day Debate does have a big, beautiful Discord, thanks to Shane and Hannah and others who have made it huge. At one point, I think this is like 5 years ago. Man, it's crazy how time flies. Seems like it was a lot more recent. There was a Modern Day Debate Discord, and there was like a civil war. No joke. It was bad. Uh, Basically, Larry said, "Hey, we're like going our own way." And so even though they used the modern day debate brand, where it's like, yeah, join the modern day debate Discord, Larry was like, I'm gonna change this Discord into mine. And he left. And now a lot of people were like, well, we're not going with you, Larry. They were like, we're going with modern day debate. Even if you change the name to like Larry's debate show, we don't want it. So Shane was like, you know what? I'm going to pick up the mantle. The crown had fallen to the ground, and Shane walked up to it and he picked it up and placed it on his head, and he built the Discord to 17,500 Discord followers, or members, I should say. Shane and Hannah have done a great job of making this Discord huge. So, very epic story. Larry's Discord faded into sad irrelevance, and he deserves it, and nobody feels sorry for him because that's a true story. He's just screwed us. Now, other lore. Let me tell you about some of the lore behind modern day debate. Sometimes, so for example, someone in chat tonight was like, hey, can you set me up in a debate with Matt Dillahunty? And I was like, bro, I just didn't have the heart to tell him. Matt Dillahunty, as of 3 years ago, his debate with Andrew Wilson, which is, if you guys remember that, if you saw that, that was an interesting time for modern day debate. We pissed off everybody, and I don't brag about that because we want people to enjoy modern day debate. So when everybody was pissed, it was like, whoa. But basically, in the debate between Andrew and Matt Dillahunty got pissed. He stormed off. He was like, ah, and he left and he said, I'm never coming back to modern day debate. And that's okay because, hey, like we've actually, the funny thing is, like, that was like our biggest, I think he kind of, I could be wrong with this. I kind of suspect that he thought that like a ton of people would be like, yeah, I'm leaving modern day debate. But that was like actually an explosive growth month for us. So sometimes what might seem like, oh, is actually a blessing in disguise. So I know, friends, you've probably gone through discouraging things. I've gone through discouraging things too. But I can tell you, keep your head up, keep your chin up. Things are going to get better. And you would be surprised because a lot of the time, things are like, oh, geez, like, come on, why did that have to happen? Or like, oh man, that is like screwed up. Or like, why'd that person have to do me dirty like that? Because it's true. Sometimes people do you they do you dirty. But you know what? Believe me, sometimes it's a blessing in disguise. A lot of times you don't understand how it is. Sometimes it's like later on. Sometimes it's like, I don't know, maybe a day later. Sometimes it's like a year later or 10 years, 20 years. But there are things for me in my life where I, like lamented certain things in the past where I was like, oh, why did this happen? And now I'm like, no, I'm glad that it happened. That was good for me. Like, my dear friends, keep your pedal to the metal. I'm very excited though. I just want to say I'm so encouraged when I think back about all the old memories of modern day debate and when we have had those like crazy moments. I'm like, bro, I'm excited for the future. The future is bright. Join us while we were small. 271,000 subscribers is amazing. And we're grateful that you guys are subscribers. Seriously, I appreciate that more than you know. But this is just the beginning of our story. We are just a baby compared to where we'll be in the future. So thank you guys for all your support. Keep sifting out the reasonable from the unreasonable. Thank you guys for everything. I will see you at the next big, beautiful debate. Thanks, guys. Oh, if you didn't know, Jay Dyer will be taking Andrew's spot in the Saturday night debate at DebateCon against Jake Brancatella. So if you did not know that, that's important for you to know. Also, so if you didn't know Jay Dyer is going to be there, it's going to be huge. Jay Dyer is going to be at DebateCon 8, debating twice, actually. And then God Logic picked up a second debate because the debate between Trent and can't remember. Alan Parr, that fell through the cracks. No hard feelings. Like, we hope both the guys are doing well, but I think it's one of those cases. I remember when it happened, I was like, "Oh, come on, really?" But I think it's a blessing in disguise because I think the debate that we've moved in place of it is going to be even better. So, thank you guys for your support. Keep sifting out the reasonable from the unreasonable. We'll see you at the next debate. Thanks, everybody.